another exciting show. And tonight, he needs no introduction at all. We've got Survival Steve. Evening, Survival Steve.
Hello! How's it going?
Mustn't grumble. And now, do you know, I can't stand these people that put placements into to show. Do you find that it's very, 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 very irritating when they do?
Yes,
things like that?
it is very.
Yeah. Yes. It's extremely irritating. I wouldn't dream of doing it myself, you know. And what's that? Carry on camping.
Carry on camping. In case you thought it said bullshit, it says bushcraft. Yeah.
It's not camping as in, oh, hello.
You never know.
And we got who wants to come first? We got someone from America. We got a guest from America who's our cheese ambassador. Is Patrick, who's got a very new microphone. It's bloody good microphone as well.
That's my same microphone. It's just for some reason I've got it set up.
Yeah,
humming along quite well.
And we got what's this? Fockham acting something. It's Paul. So evening. It's Henry. So you're the Fockham acting
transport.
So
Yeah, FAT for short.
FAT.
Yeah.
So you're Fockham acting transport minister.
Yeah.
And I've got news for you. There was supposed to be a strike round out my way with buses, Arriva.
You didn't notice any difference.
No, that was actually better service.
The bus actually turned up.
Yeah, it turned up for the first time. Oh, bloody hell, that's good, isn't it?
What's this? The 2 decks and everything.
Now, let's have a look who we got in chat. Now, let's have a look. Because it's only when we go live that the chat shows itself on my screen. So I'll have to look in the other chat to see who does it make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. But anyway.
No, it don't make any sense.
None whatsoever. So Dennis Nia, evening all, was the first before Aunt Sally. Now, actually, I have to look in a different screen for the actual Rumble itself to see who was on before we were in the chat before we went live. You see, so
I think it was Dennis when I've just looked.
It was, yes, but as he's on the show, I mean,
Yeah.
you can imagine. So, anybody, let's put it, throw this out. Anybody would like to have a 2-finger salute to any celebrity or politician of their choice, please say, you know. So, anybody in chat, doesn't really matter if you're first on. So that's it. Got Aunt Sally.
Well, I think the one person, who, if he's a person who really needs one of those at the moment, is the Blair family.
Yes. Now, isn't that amazing? Don't you think that's amazing coincidence? Digital ID, the founder of a company that produces this stuff. Who is it now? I think you'll have to remind me. Who is it? Mr. Anorak? Who is it? It's Ewan Blair, isn't it?
It is. I'm sure he must be the Milkmans or something like that. There's no way Blair's produced anything, is he?
No. I mean, well, he couldn't be a relative of Tony, could he? No, because that would be dishonest, wouldn't it? We can't. They're very, very, very straight people in Parliament, aren't they?
Yeah, right.
Oh, hang on a minute. Stephen Truthseeker says has to be Starmer again. So to Starmer. Here we go. That's it. Right.
Can we just do this all night?
Yeah, we're going to do this all bloody night. Yes.
Starmer, now, Tony Blair, Starmer, Tony Blair.
And it's like a tennis match, isn't it? Well, tonight, you see, we're going to look at things from a different point of view. We can look at it that way or look at it that way. Imagine we were part of whoever you want to call them, the Illuminati, the usury scammers, the powers that you can't see, the hidden hand, whatever you want to call them, doesn't matter. Imagine we were them. We're not actually. What would you do if you noticed people waking up to your little tricks? You would throw out misdirections. Here, everywhere. A little bit like chaff. Is it? I think it's chaff, is it, Steve? That you throw out from aeroplanes. Chaff, which is like bits of aluminium.
They throw it out the window like this. Pew!
Yes. boing, boing, boing. Actually, I thought it was when they flushed the lavvy that all came out the back. You know, because apparently, do you know the pilots have to pee on a sponge, a special sponge? I mean, what is it, a Mr.
What?
Kipling sponge, or is it a Mr. Kipling sponge, or is it one that they got in the in the cake shop before they left? Sorry.
And then they sell it to somebody on board as food. Here's your lemonade.
Yes, we started off with the fart jokes, folks. Right, but no, what I was going to say is, you would throw misdirections out. And I'm going to upset a lot of people now because you notice in the intro. By the way, the intro is from a film about zombies, and it was a very early film, 1964, I think it was. And they're not people that are disabled. I make that clear because I thought some sodball thought that and say, "Oh, you're taking me out disabled." No, they're actors acting the part of zombies. All right, so I just thought I'd make that clear.
Is that Night of the Living Dead?
I think it is. Yeah,
Okay.
very good film.
Classic.
It really is, and it's better because it's in black and white. It gives it more something about black and white gives it that little edge, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was grainy 16 millimeter footage.
Yeah.
From the
Is it
60s.
right? It was filmed. Someone said it was filmed in this country, but I don't think it was.
No, I think it was here.
Yeah,
It was
sure
George
it was.
Romero. He ended up making
Yeah.
other ones like Dawn of the Dead, all sorts of sequels to it.
I have to say, because when I first saw it, I thought it was the Starmer family photograph or something like that.
Well, he made Dawn of the Dead, and then they made that comedy over there called Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah,
And especially the scene where the bloke walks out of his house in the morning, goes into the newspaper shop, and doesn't notice there's all this blood and zombies everywhere. Just evening, puts the money on the counter and walks out and doesn't notice it at all, oblivious to what's going on. But anyway, on with the show. Now, where we've got Jojo Gizmo has said that it's probably just a coincidence that Tony Blair has, hang on a minute, got to sit down with this one, 375 million shares in the same company. Well, isn't that a coincidence? But of course, it's all in the best possible taste and above board, because he wouldn't be dishonest, would he?
Well, don't you think that
was very fortunate?
Do you not think that as he's aged, he's starting to look more like the one of the puppets out of Punch and Judy?
Yes, he is. I mean, you would think he was one of the puppets out. And now, Stephen Truthseeker says, correcting all the data and then offering the chip as a magic spell. Yes, very true there. Well, I don't know if I probably said this before, but those of you who are a little of a certain age will probably remember Sonny Jim Callaghan, who was the Prime Minister of before Margaret Thatcher in 1979. And Sonny Jim Callaghan was Welsh boy, and he bought some scrubland in Wales, which wasn't fit for sheep grazing because it was just scrubland. That's it. So it was just wasteland, and he bought it for pennies, very, very cheap. And people thought, what a silly thing to do, you know. And the Royal Mint were looking for new state-of-the-art place to build so they can do all their coins and stuff and counterfeiting and whatever outside London. And you never guess what plot of land they chose to build their building on. All together now, Jim Callaghan's. And he made a fortune out of it.
In fact, he made a mint out of it.
Oh, that's a classic, that one is. But
Jim Culligan?
Jim Callaghan, yes. Sonny Jim.
Sonny
Yeah, if you
Jim.
look
Who
at
was
before, he was a Prime Minister.
Oh, okay.
And my dad met him. There you're going to say, hey? Yeah. He went on the London Tube train, and before he was Prime Minister, he sat opposite my dad on the tube with his secretary. And in those days, they didn't have any guards around them or security blokes. They just used to sit there. And that's when he was that was when he was a minister. Seriously. And he got off at Westminster. So that's true. Yeah. On the Circle Line. So
High trust.
Yes, it was. And did you know that there was that chap who did the Rivers of Blood speech, Enoch Powell? he did not have any special protection. He used to go to places with no bodyguards or anything like that. And that was in the 60s. That was 1968 he did that speech.
Mm.
Amazing how things have changed, isn't it? Now, if the powers that be, this is Barefoot Foreigner, should not be, I'd set up a slick podcast be different from this that promotes xenophobia and inaction, divide and rule. No laughs, no integrity, no fascinating guests, no solutions. Yes. Good point there. Yes, very
Well, I
good
wonder
point.
what it would be called.
Well, we'd have to. We could think up a name. Somebody in chat, think up a nice name for it.
Mm.
But we don't want any rude names, do we? Because we're all polite on this show. We don't say any rude words because we're Mrs. Whitehouse approved. Right now, Steve.
Yeah.
Now you were saying about the digital ID. Because we've both got Telegram channels. My one is no, not in my crutch. It's down below in the comment section. Sorry, in the description section. Now, Steve, you were quite pleased for some unknown reason about this digital ID. Far away with your ideas.
Oh, I did leave a comment about that. Yeah, I think. Do you know what? I think I said something about it's a good idea simply because if anyone wasn't crystal clear, like 100% sure that they were getting screwed over by the Goverscum, well, at least now they know. So, I mean, you mentioned what would you do if you were waging war against the human population? You know, what little distractions would you do? Well, that's how government work. The word government means mind control, literally, from that's Latin terminology. And what they are doing in the present climate is something called cognitive warfare. So they don't just apply this occasionally when it suits them. They do this all the time. This is an ongoing effort. So that's how they maintain control over people, by an ongoing focused effort to debilitate people's cognitive functions so they can remain powerful and in control.
Excellent point. And Mark Anthony says, has everyone ditched Rumble for YouTube on Sunday? I think I was the only one over here. No, that's right. No, it was 50-50, but now it's much higher in. So YouTube is coming up on the back outside. There we go. And we got Rumble, yes. But still nobody in Facebook yet. But I don't blame them because nobody looks at bleeding Facebook, so that's crap. Gab, and I'm on Gab, and I'm also on Telegram. Gab's good, it is. You can say rude words like tit and bum on there and not get reprimanded for it, you know. Oh, sorry, I just said it on YouTube, haven't I? Tit and bum. You know.
I thought it's interesting as we talk about the numbers on a regular basis that this Brit card, as they're calling it, has a value of 60, which equals 666.
Wow.
Well. But we all know it's the thin end of the wedge. Because have you seen that on, I think it was on TikTok? And by the way, the owner of TikTok, apparently, he's friends with Tony Blair.
Which owner? The new owner?
Well, there's a new owner, apparently, yes.
Is that Ellison? Keith Ellison?
Maybe, I don't know.
He's the one that runs Oracle, and they do most of our government databases.
Ah.
Everything from medical information to government database information. So that would only make sense. And then it's only a matter of time before the Americans get it. They test it out on you, and then we get
it.
You know, we get some false flag go off, and then we're like, oh, we need this. So.
Well, by the way, there's this thing about YouTube versus Rumble. Rumble often goes wrong. That's why I got onto YouTube. Yes, after Paul English's show, Rumble went tits up, and then they had to do it from YouTube. But it's strange, though, isn't it? But actually, you'll probably notice in the corner that I'm doing it from Rumble Studio. So if Rumble does go tits up, YouTube
Do you
will go
think
down at all.
do you think YouTube purposely sabotaged your Rumble stream in order to get their numbers up? Wouldn't put
Makes
it
you wonder,
past
doesn't
them.
it? They wouldn't put them past me. No. Oh, hang on a minute. I think we set off the klaxons at YouTube HQ. Watch out, So if we go down, you know the reason why. Some spotty teenager. Oh no, they're only complaining about this. Oh, can't have that.
So now, are you going to need a digital ID to go on YouTube and Rumble now?
You probably will do.
Yeah, because you need it to work. And if this is, people work on YouTube all the time. They make their money off of it. They get monetized.
You've got a bloody good point there. You've got a good point. And also, there's something else. What about those of us that write books and things and get a little bit of dosh from Amazon?
Yeah, same.
Well, also, you have to think about this as well. If you go for your digital ID, right, you're going to need to bring some ID with you to prove who you are. So
Yeah.
they're saying that a driving license and a passport aren't good enough ID. So what do you bring with you, like a stool sample, and say and put
No,
like
fingerprints. Hence the word digital. You take your digits and you have your fingerprint ID or your facial ID.
I've already got digital ID. Do you mind if I show it?
No.
As long as it's not rude.
Oh, it is rude. That's 2 digits.
Yes, that's a good one. 2 digit.
2
And in
digits.
America,
My digital ID. Yeah, there we go.
in America.
Keir Starmer's eyes will light up every time he sees that finger.
Well, did you know that last Saturday, the old joke's the best. Yes, he likes going with his friends Ali up the Arsenal, doesn't he? By the way, for those of you in America, that is a football.
Yes.
Yes.
Arsenal.
Yes, he certainly enjoys going up the Arsenal. Yes, with his friend Ali.
The Manchester United.
Nothing rude there. All right, folks. Nothing rude.
Did you get on the tube up to Cockfosters or something like that?
It's like 2 cannibals. You heard that gag about 3 cannibals, sorry, and one of them dies. And one says to the other one, he says, bloody shame to waste him, innit? He says, yeah, could eat him. So he said, well, how are we going to share it out? So the first one says, well, look, when I was in England, he said, I supported Liverpool and lived in Hartlepool, so I'll have the liver and the heart. And the other bloke says, well, has anyone trouble? He said, I lived in Cockfosters and supported Arsenal, but I don't feel very hungry at the moment. but oh, by the way, Stephen True, so you always get someone very serious here. Stephen True Seeker says eye scans. And eye scans to you, mate, at all, yeah. Yes. But they found that fingerprints can be wrong. They have found them to be inaccurate, haven't they? Have you heard about that one?
That's why they'll do the facial ID.
Yeah.
It'll be for the people without fingers, because there are definitely people without fingers.
Yes. And we'll be without fingers if the heavies come in and we refuse to have the digital ID, won't we?
Are we all looking forward to sharing a cell together then?
Yeah, it'd be quite fun, wouldn't it? Mark Anthony says, Patrick gives a good point. The plan is you will eventually need ID to get online, and you'll need it for everything.
Well, they've been talking about that in Australia with the digital age the age verification, and you have to be above 16 to get a social media account. They're already testing that sort of thing out over there.
Really?
Yeah.
But well, Australia seems to be more, when they had the lockdown, they were more strict than here in many ways. I mean, I know somebody in Australia, and she moved house, and as I was walking to the aircraft, there's all these guards all in their masks and that, and there's an old lady staggering. She could hardly walk, so the natural human thing to do is help the lady. And that was get out of the way, get out, mustn't help her, she must do all this. And they're literally inhuman. This poor woman, she could hardly walk, and she needed assistance, but nobody gave it, and you wasn't allowed to give her assistance. I mean, that's just bonkers.
It's tyranny.
Yeah, absolute tyranny. And well, unbelievable.
If only we'd picked up pitchforks after the convid, then we wouldn't be even talking about digital ID. But we're still not prepared to do enough to challenge the situation, which is why we're getting screwed over. So that's why I'm kind of not too concerned about digital ID, because if we can't be bothered to save ourselves during a fake health emergency and 5 years later they're announcing digital ID, well, personally, I think they're taking it easy on us.
I agree with
Because
you.
we're a pushover. Sadly,
We
we're a
are.
pushover.
But why are we a pushover? See, the thing is, people can't see that when you go on a march, you're begging your slave master for mercy. That's all it is. Please, sir. Like Oliver, can I
Absolutely.
have more? Do you mind if I march? Okay. And I don't want you to bring in digital ID, because what they normally do, they always announce that something's. They're very sneaky. They'll seemingly back down and then do it through the back door. This is what they did with
Yeah.
the fuel thing. There was this massive fuel protest, and you couldn't get fuel anywhere. And the government seemingly backed down, and they dropped the fuel price back a couple of pence. I can't remember exactly. And people said, "Oh, we won! Fantastic!" Then 2 weeks later, they shut the fuel price not only back up, but with much more on top. And that's
Yeah.
what they do. They do it every
Because
bloody time.
we are
They're
our
criminals.
own worst enemies, because we don't
Yeah.
learn from history. We don't even learn from near history. We don't even learn from 5 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's why we're getting dominated, and we're getting violently dominated. And sadly, a lot of people seem to think that protesting is a good idea. Well, good luck with that. Some people think petitioning is a good idea. Yeah, good luck with that. And I'll say openly, if we think that we're going to make any difference whatsoever to change the dynamics of a situation that we don't understand against a far superior enemy by progressing with tactics that they allow us to perform to keep us under their control, then we are pitifully going to lose every single time. That's why we're getting digital ID. Bring it on, I say, because if it doesn't stir people up enough to do some form of action to prevent it, then we deserve everything that we get. So, frankly, we deserve it.
Well, my hero, Yuri Bezmenov, predicted all this in the early 80s. Go onto YouTube, put Yuri Bezmenov on, and you'll see him talking to a chap called G. Edward Griffin. And I think it's about 1982, 83, 84, about that time. It's still on YouTube. You can still see it. And it's worth watching, because he was an expert on ideological subversion. And what he predicted, and I've said this thousands of times, is you'll get somebody, and this is how Chairman Mao got in. And this is where a lot of these dictators got in. Now, there's a similarity between Chairman Mao and what's happening now. And people going, what? Stay tuned, fellas, folks. Get your popcorn and your cup of tea. Here it comes. Chairman Mao appealed to the peasant farmers, of which there was millions of them. And he promised them all the goodies, as Yuri Bezmenov would say, you could ever wish to think of. When I get to power, I'll give you this, we'll give that. And the enemy was the landowners. Okay, where have we heard that before? Then what happens is the American banks financed Mao.
Like
People
they
don't
did Stalin and Lenin.
Well, it goes right the way back, because a chap called Schiff, who was an American, Jacob Schiff, there was a war between Russia and Japan. It ended in 1904.
Yep.
And Japan literally beat Russia, and they took over Manchuria, Korea, loads of other places, which are too numerous. And it was a bankers' war, because how the Japanese could afford, because wars are costly, they cost a lot of money. And Jacob Schiff, he managed to finance it so that Japan won and beat Russia.
And he started a company called the Kuhn Loeb Company, which is a bank that later became Lehman Brothers, which went bankrupt in 2008 here recently with lots of land holdings in Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it became, all the assets were stripped by JP Morgan and sold off to Barclays
Well.
and
Well,
BlackRock.
This chief, he didn't not only finance the Bolsheviks in the Russian Revolution, got them into power, but apparently, I'm not sure on this one. I think he financed Mao. I think he did. So don't hold me on that one. I think he did. I've got to look up.
I'm pretty sure he did as well.
Yeah. And Mao, as I say, he actually appealed to all the peasants, and he offered them everything they could wish to think of. You'll be living in luxury, all this bullshit. And then once he got into power in 1948, he systematically destroyed the people that got him into power, because they, as they got him into power, could get him out of power. So he got rid of them, and he was a complete psychopath. And he played on this, well, we beat the Japanese. That's how we did it. We beat the Japanese. And we got them, and that's how he played. And then, of course, he was anything but. All the goodies and everything that he promised, that went all down the toilet when he got into power. And this is what they do. They turn out to be the most ruthless ever. Now, nowadays, they don't have to get people to disappear and put them up against the wall and, shall we say, inject them with a small piece of lead that goes just behind the ear. No, they don't do that now, because they've got weapons that can give heart attacks and they can give illnesses and things like that. And I still feel that Mo Molam and a few other people in the Labour Party were finished off. And I think that chap Smith was finished off to make way for Blair to come into power. I just wonder if anybody in chat has any thoughts about that one.
Smith?
Yes.
Who was he?
John Smith, he was the Labour leader before Tony Blair.
Tony Blair was a Tory conservative?
No, he was Labour.
Tony
was Blair. Yeah.
Okay.
And what happened is John Smith had a heart attack on a Welsh hillside. I think, no, a Scottish hillside. Sorry, it doesn't matter what it was.
I think I know who you're talking about. He's
It's
kind
John
of a
Smith.
reddish hair.
That's right.
guy.
That's
Yeah.
right. And he was quite fit. And there was another chap that had a similar heart attack. Strange, isn't it? Who was conveniently, he was outspoken, and he was talking about 9/11 being an not quite
Inside.
what was the inside job. And suddenly he had a heart attack. Isn't that strange? So all adds up, doesn't it, really?
Well, John
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the
Smith's full of
first time
ideas.
though. Political assassinations have been going on since since biblical times, so it's not a new tactic by any means. I would anticipate more of that kind of thing. I mean, I mentioned something earlier called cognitive warfare, and I mean, I don't know if. I mean, I mentioned this to people in the truth movement that just kind of shrug it off. That's well, your government's waging war on you as individuals and societal groups. Personally, I would kind of take umbrage at that understanding. But cognitive warfare, as the name kind of suggests, is it's nothing new, but it's been refabricated and polished and refined into the model of the effects that we see taking place in front of us on almost a daily basis in the news today. And if you can think that cognitive is about cognitive function, so it's about attitudes, beliefs and perceptions, and also behaviors. So if you can manage that, it's not to manage people to give them what to think. It's designed to encourage people how to think to bend to the will of a more dominant force, which is in our case, you couldn't say it's the government, but this is just they're just the middle management team to keep the cattle at bay. That's all that is. We are up against a more powerful enemy, and if we don't give ourselves a boot up the arse, we are going to get massively defeated. And if anyone thinks we're winning, what was the health emergency about 5 years ago? A complete hoax of the highest order, and they managed to propagate a biological thingamabob amongst millions of people, and nobody's been held accountable for that. So if anyone in the truth community thinks I'm talking garbage, please explain that dynamic. Please explain digital IDs or that's nothing to
Spot
be alarmed about.
on. Well, the other thing is the misdirection. What I was saying at the beginning of the show, if we were the Illuminati or whatever you want to call us, and these misdirections, we're seeing misdirections everywhere. And to me, if anybody wants to go into Parliament, anybody's a politician, like nice old Farage with his garage, Nigel Farage. One question, Nigel, what's that? What are you going to do about usury? Oh, you'd run a mile.
He's going to whitewash anything that could
He'll
be
whitewash it. That's right. You will not. That's one question you need to ask. What is this MP going to do? Because once you've solved the usury problem, which is the biggest scam ever, and you can talk to people in the truth movement, and you mention usury, that I think you're talking about a new washing powder. What? What's that? It's what rules our lives. It's why it's financial slavery. That's basically what. Excuse me, I've got my blue dot.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in principle that usury is a massive thing and it needs to be addressed, but it still pales insignificant to the major causal factor of today's society, which is facing an effect called cognitive warfare. It's simply about perception and cognition. This is what we need to focus on. And if we're not focusing on perception and cognition, we're going to be violently dominated for the rest of our lives. And we'll be brains in a jar before we know it. And to be quite honest, if that's what people want, well, we're doing the right things to attract it, which is ultimately nothing. Or if people think, well, we're doing the best we can, well, you need to do something different to protests and petitions. Because frankly, I mean, I might sound like I'm ranting on here, but I was a combat soldier for nearly 30 years. I'm giving people battle strategy. And there's people at below the tactical level, which is the lowest level of application of effects, the tactical level, trying to establish strategic level effects. It just can't work. If you can't focus on strategic effects, you are wasting your time. You may as well apply for digital ID now instead of marching down with flags and petitions in Whitehall. You look like imbeciles.
Yeah.
That's just it. If you have the truth, what do you do with the truth at that point? It's one thing to be a part of the truth community, but what are you doing with the truth? Are you hiding it under a bushel barrel like a lamp, or are you using it in the dark to light the way forward?
Precisely. But with all these misdirections that are not getting the job done, like Nigel Farage with his garage and little Tommy Trousers, who finances them? You see, it takes a lot of money in wars. Who finances the wars? That's all you have to do. Just scrape the surface away a little bit and you'll see who finances.
Well, that's like World War II. In America, George Patton, General Patton, he was the richest American at the time.
Really? I didn't know that. George Patton.
Yeah.
What's your view of Patton? Because I think that history has been giving him a very bad deal. I personally think that, but I could be wrong.
Well, I think they didn't like that he was recognizing the power behind the throne and wanting to go after the Bolsheviks after they'd conquered Germany. He wanted to take what was left over of the Third Reich military and go and conquer Russia.
And do you think he was bumped off?
Yes.
It seems pretty fishy to me that he was. I think he was bumped off. He knew too much. But
read his letters to his wife.
Yeah, and if you look at the film, that was George C. Scott acted the part of Patton, didn't he? And Patton's family were quite upset about it because they reckon he was not like that. He wasn't like the part that George C. Scott portrayed. He was a very sort of kindly sort of bloke. He was quite a sort of he's a very good general, but he was he cared a lot for his men. That's why he used to go around the hospitals, didn't he, and see the wounded. He made a point of doing that. But I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm only going through second and third hand information, so I don't
But
know.
these wars cost a lot of money, and these people who dictate the labor of the military are a lot of these rich people themselves. They have
Well, that's right.
tremendous amount of control of finances.
Well, I'm trying to keep up with chat. I hope you don't mind.
Don't mind.
If I don't read your chat, sorry. If I don't read your chat, what you said on our online, I'll try and put it on the screen. So there we go. But no, the thing is, what I was saying, look at little Tommy Trousers. To me, that was a PR exercise for a country we're not allowed to criticise. Because
yeah, that's Ezra Levant from Rebel Media in Canada. Even they were the ones that were against the trucker convoy.
Yeah.
Can I just cut in there? And no disrespect, but personally, I couldn't give a two hoots about a certain particular country in the Middle East because that's irrelevant. This is really distracting from what this is all about. The idea of all of this, and this is just an aspect of cognitive warfare. So protesting and the charade, the media show pony of charades of protestants and this Tommy Trousers down in London. Nothing different to what they've done a million times before, which is just to keep the people dumbed down. And when they're dumbed down and they're not fully functioning with cognitive ability, they're easier to manipulate. And that's exactly what's happening to society. We're falling for it time and time again. And I'm almost bored with conversations with truthers who seem to think or insist that this is the way forward to raise attention. To raise attention to who? Nobody cares less in Parliament about our domination. That's their aim. All authority wants to do. So governments the world over, all they try to achieve is to dominate society. All wars that were ever created were deliberately designed not to impose fighting effects upon other nations. It's to impose domination effects on their own nation, on the citizens. Warfare is just another psyop smokescreen of a large scale, just like a protest is a smaller version, a smokescreen, a diversion, a psyop, in order to keep people bewildered, confused, disorientated, and controllable. So anyone who attended that, sorry to break it to them, but you wasted your time.
Well, the thing is, they all go home, and then nothing's changed, is it? We're still in exactly the same situation now as we were back then. I suppose that's the one thing I do think about, though, with regards to and I've probably said this before, if we went and stormed Parliament, for example, at some point we've all got to go home. And it's at that point.
They don't want unity.
How do you? Obviously, we could go if we went in and took over. Unless you've got a continuous change of people to come and keep an eye on the place, at some point we all have to go home. We all have our own homes. We all
spot on.
Have our own lives away from it. And
well, you're right. I mean, Alice Gorgeous has put on a good point here. Eric, please ask what his solution is. Now, the fact is, before we go into solution, I think we've got to look at the reason. The reason people are going on marches and falling for misdirections is they're grasping at any form of hope you could wish to think of. Because you think of what's pumped out on the media. It's constant fear porn, shock, horror. And if you put someone, as I've said on previous shows, you get someone who goes into shock, it reverts them back to their childhood. Now, I mean, I'm not talking about someone that creeps up behind and goes, boo, I mean, but I'm talking about, something happened with me, that it was a shock that was a small shock, released a larger shock that had been inside me for years. And I learned a lot from it, from that experience, because if you're, and I mean, I don't know, Steve, I guess you may know more about this, where shock can revert people back to childhood. And I think this is what they're trying to do, the powers that be, is to revert people into a childish state where they're grasping at any hope. So march there. Oh, that's hope. Oh, write to your MP. That's hope. It's a little bit of hope there. No, it isn't. It's
They
false
want
hope.
unity. They want something to unite with. They're desperate for it because there's nothing. It's lacking in our society today. And if you had unity, real unity, you could do something about it. But it's a false sense of hope that they're giving people with the patriotism that they're trying to invoke.
Well, let's look at this. Alice has brought a really good point here. Hello, Alice Gorgeous. I love that name, Alice Gorgeous. Eric, please ask what the solution is. Now, the way I look at it is where I come from, my profession. You have an objective that you have to work to, and I think Steve, it's very similar. Now, my background's architecture, so when a client has a brief of, we get a brief doing of what the client wants. You've got to find out exactly what they want. So they want a modern office building somewhere or whatever. You can see that as an objective to work to. And of course, when you're designing it, not only on your own, but with loads of other people, you've all got this objective because that has got to be done. The design work has got to be done in a certain amount of time. So everybody's got this sort of sense of urgency on their mind. And, you go into a design office and everybody's running around, and, architects' offices are like a lunatic asylum. Now, I'd imagine, I've never been in the military, I had anything to do with the military, but I imagine, Steve, you have a job to do, you have an objective that you have to carry out. You've all got this objective, and how are you going to achieve that objective? I mean, look at the Entebbe raid. When the Israelis went into Uganda, they had an objective. They had all the plans. They knew exactly where things were, etc., etc. But things very rarely work out how they were originally planned, ever. There's always something that is overlooked or goes wrong or something. So this is the thing that is lacking, I think, is an objective. So what is our objective overall? Let's say we're sitting now and we've achieved the objective. What is it, Steve?
Well, before we get to that, I think it's well worthy, and I mean, I think that this is vitally important. What Alice has brought up and yourself are mentioning here, this is the most vital thing that we need to kind of concentrate on. Patrick's mentioned a great word there as well, which is unity. Unity, i.e., we need to focus together on a common aim. So this is a battle strategy, and I've mentioned this word as well, strategy. This is not tactics, it's not operational, it's higher, it's strategy. And this is where we need to focus efforts. Certainly we need to focus understanding as well. But before we can establish a strategic effect, an aim, what we need to do is understand intimately the causal factors of the problem. We need to get down to the weeds, the nuts and the bolts. Under the surface, we need to identify something called causal factors and first principles. Then if we can focus from that level and build ourselves up, we then need to generate an understanding of let's just say the enemy, how the enemy think, what their tactics are, what weapons or effects do they employ, and how's their morale. Then how can we focus or generate something based on that understanding? And this is where and I'm just going to say the truth movement in general. The truth movement is like a bomb burst in terms of understanding. Some people are focusing on the guy who got shot recently. Some people are talking about what shape the earth is. Some people are talking about which religion is best. And others are talking about which planet are the blue avians going to come down and unite the population in the fifth dimension. In other words, what we've got is a massive splinter movement of people with massive disparities of information. So I'm gonna mention something straight out of the Principle of War Handbook: selection and maintenance of the aim. Selection and maintenance of the aim is what we first need to do before we can even say that protests are good. We need to select and maintain an aim. So I would suggest the aim that we need to focus on is freedom. So I'd imagine most people in the freedom movement would already or kind of agree with that in principle. But what they don't understand is what freedom actually is. And this is why I say first principles and causal factors. If we don't understand what freedom actually is, how can we generate anything to combat or gain an effect to generate that? Freedom, what is it? And I would ask a million truthers, what is freedom? Freedom is the ability to physically, mentally, and emotionally act without hindrance. Freedom also has to be generated through rights. So let's explore that combination. What is a right? A right is any action that causes no harm to another living being. Do we have rights? Yes, we do, but can we apply rights? No, we can't apply any rights. Why? Because we are kept in a state of fear through violence and duress by an entity who manages our cognitive function, who call themselves the government. Freedom can never, ever, 1,000,000% ever be capable if we adhere to government. The truth movement don't understand this. That's why you're enslaved. That's why you get digital ID, because you don't, and I'm saying this generally across the board, the truth movement as a movement, a body of people, does not understand causal factors, first principles. It doesn't understand mechanisms of warfare, but we can come to a common collective, and I'm sure we can explore this in a later question, by understanding a dynamic, a science called the occult. And this is what I teach on my channel, the Occult Academy. And if more people understood it, nobody would be getting digital ID.
Can you explain more, Steve? Because people, when you say the word occult, 50% of people go, oh, it's all devil worship, isn't it? Oh. So I think you'll be able to
Yeah, if you
explain
don't
to
mind,
people.
yeah, of course. I'll
So,
gladly do that because
because it's a word that is misunderstood, and you're going to get all
massively.
the born again Christians and everybody else all running a mile.
It's a word that means hidden in
Precise.
Latin.
Yeah, that's it.
If we can explore that a little bit further, because you're exactly right. Loads of people will run a mile as soon as you mention the word occult. But I want to demystify what this is all about. And I mean, I would gladly welcome anybody who thinks the word means evil or it's got negative connotations to join my channel and educate themselves, because that's what we need to do. We need to educate ourselves, not just because I'm saying this, it's because I mentioned the fact that we need to understand the enemy and causal factors. So what is the enemy? And we'll come to what the
Who are
enemy is. I'm going to do inverted commas for the enemy. Our opponents who want to enslave us, who are enslaving us, who want to give us medications that we don't want or need, that are harmful, and they want to give us a digital identity that nobody wants. If we don't want to do that, we need to understand their mind space. If we don't understand their mind, then we can't focus our minds in order to generate suitable effects. So the word occult means hidden, as Patrick's correctly said, but what it relates to is the laws of nature in the universe, which is known as the macrocosm, and the dynamics of the human psyche, which is known as the microcosm. And if we can understand both these principles and see how they're both interlinked, then we can achieve strategic effects that have purpose in the world. But why do we need to know that? Because that's what our enemy are using all the time. They are experts on occult knowledge and they're using superior knowledge to dominate people with inferior knowledge. If we don't understand the occult, you will never, ever at all generate freedom. Period. The end.
That's right. And I say the word that is a word that is always often misunderstood. And that is the thing, because you could be of any religion, doesn't matter. It's nothing to do with what people first think it's to do with. That word, I think it's a word that's been corrupted in many ways. That's the thing, and you're using it in the old, I would say, the old English sense. But the thing that, looking at practically what we can do as an individual, I think we've got to look at our own strengths. Now, some of us can walk around protesting. Some of us can speak very well. Some of us are very good letter writers. Some of us are okay. And I think it's knowing our strengths of what we can do and what we can't do. And above all, peaceful, civil disobedience. No, because when you look at, there was a chap on TikTok, and I was going to put it on tonight, but I thought, well, as I'm on YouTube, I better not, because it might, it might give him a funny sort of turn. But what he said is, if everybody said, stuff your digital ID, stuff it. Now, we know that people psychologically are not in that mind to do that. People won't stick together.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the first obstacle to overcome. But what he theoretically said, he said, what would happen is the government would then cut off our food supplies and things like that. But he said, that would be the time to use cooperatives, where people that grow the food, the farmers, would then go to churches and all different halls and places like that, and we would barter, or we'd use our own currency. And one interesting currency, which many people, I don't know too much about it, but looking into it, is the gold back. Now, please go on to, I won't say Google, but go onto the internet after the show, of course, look up the gold back. And what it is, it's a genius idea. I wouldn't say it's paper money. It's a special plastic note, especially it's high tech, and it's got actual gold in it. So you would buy, I think Patrick might know more about this, because they're using them in the States, in Florida in particular. And the chap was saying they're going to have ATM machines where you'll be able to exchange your local, your dollars for these gold backs. Now, I'm not sure that the people such as the Rothschilds are going to allow that, because it undercuts them. But the marvelous thing about the gold back, it's got a very, very small amount of gold in it, which you can see. So you might have bought, say, a gold back for, let's say, £5, all right, which is about, $6-7. You can go to spend it, and it's now worth £7 or £8 or $10 or whatever. It goes up in price. It's a kind of inflation in the opposite direction. You put money in your pocket, and within a short amount of time, it's about worth 8% less than it was, so a couple of weeks ago. And that is what inflation does. But this is the other way around. With a gold back, it's backed money. So if you got these gold backs and you just sat on them, they would increase in value as the gold prices went up. And
this is all great in principle, and in the future, this will all be relevant. But in the here and now, this is what we kind of really need to understand is we are in a state of warfare. We are in World War III, and I know you've mentioned before World War III started in 1947. We are already. I mean, I don't know when people kind of woke up to understand what was going on in the wider world, but let's say a lot of people woke up in the last 5 years during the COVID era, which is, I think, is a fair assumption. We are already 80 years behind that level of understanding, because many of the things that we're seeing now have been generated for decades and decades, and they've been tried and tested and established in theaters, not just of physical conflict, but other theaters of dominance throughout the world for decades and decades. So these people are massively experienced, well established, and very, very much at a much more capable advantage than we are. We are very much on the back foot in our comprehension and cognitive function. If we can't understand certain things in our minds and get it into our minds first, then no measure of currency will make any difference to being violently dominated, which is what we are going to receive in the very near future. It doesn't matter what kind of, let's just say, black market economy, and this is not a new thing. If anyone understands voluntarism or agorism, these have all been established and talked about for decades as well. This isn't a new thing, but when we get violently dominated by a much more superior entity, none of this stuff will have any relevance, because we will be on the back foot. We'll not enjoy or appreciate life as we could to its full capacity. If we don't act now responsibly and start to come to a common understanding, I'm afraid the future's not going to look rosy for us.
I can understand that. The thing is, though, Steve, I was saying what this chap was, and I went off at a tangent, but what this chap on TikTok was saying, he said, after day 1 or 2, this would happen, after such and such days, and after 30 days, he'd give it 30 days of people saying no, and the government would try everything they could.
I saw the video, and I agree with you.
Access to food, yeah.
But
I think that we've got to think what we're going to do, because, as I say, we've got to be organised, and we've got to what does Joe Public sitting at home saying, well, okay, what do I do? So say somebody's sitting down, they're watching this on YouTube, and they're thinking, or Rumble or whatever, what can I personally do that's
allow me to answer all of that? I'll I'll try to be brief, because I know I can go on sometimes. I'll try to be brief, but I did see that gentleman's video, and I fully agree. If people said no, then none of this would happen. The problems would go away. How do we get people to get to that level of understanding? Because we can't force people to say no, and we can't change people's minds if they don't understand. So the only way we can get that condition is to make people understand by giving them information that will change their opinion. Bearing in mind, cognitive warfare, which has been applied to people since 1947, has steered people into an understanding that they have to accept the domination of government. Most people, even in the truth movement, can't perceive life without the government. Therefore, they can't perceive life with freedom. They've written it out of their existence because they're not prepared to take the challenge that this would provoke. In order to understand how we can A, live without government, and B, understand that government are actually evil in their strategic aim, we have to educate people. And if we can't educate ourselves first, we can't give that education to others. So all effects have to be generated there. Everything. And I'm saying this as a combat soldier at a high level for 30 years. I'm telling people, in order to win a war, the war starts here. And we have to understand principles before we do anything out in the wider world. So people stuck at home thinking, what can I do? I'll tell you what you need to do. You need to understand the occult. You need to understand, in particular, 2 things: objective morality and natural law. And I've spoken to loads of truthers in the truth movement, and I would say 99% of people have got zero idea what this means. Until we understand objective morality and natural law, we will be violently dominated till the end of time.
Well, that's interesting. I think also we can look at countries. You see, again, we've got to have this objective. The objective, what is our objective? We've got to have a clear objective. Look at countries that were without a government for some time. For example, the Midwest in America. We hear about that. They were without government. And we have all these Hollywood films showing these terrible outlaws going into town, shooting up. Well, apparently that is the shit of the bull. because, yes, there were outlaws, but most people were very, very honest, scrupulously honest, and they didn't do that. And it worked very, very well, and they didn't have a government. But then you look at Argentina in 1990 when they went bust. Apparently, what happened, people used to have pots and pans, used to bang on the walls of the banks at a certain time every day. But putting that aside, things began to work without a government because someone went along with a bolt cutter, opened the chains of local council, and a group of people got together and they started fixing the holes in the potholes in the roads. And people started hiring teachers, and things started to actually work. And poverty sort of eased. The rich came down a little bit, and they were starting to meet in the middle, and they started to gain employment. Poland, when the Berlin Wall came down, for 2 years didn't have a government, and a lot of the Poles said that was the best time they ever had. It's fantastic without government. And then suddenly, the World Banks and things like that stepped in, and in came a bloody government. So they are perfect examples of where you did not have a government.
And a greater good implies that you have sacrifice for that greater good. You have to be willing to do that, and that's where unity comes in, because we all have to be willing to sacrifice something. Now, that whole idea of sacrifice is being used, like, for instance, the digital ID. Well, we'll get rid of your privacy as a sacrifice in order to have this greater convenience, and then all of these benefits will happen. Like Starmer says, all these migrants that people complain about, well, the problem will go away then. Well, it's like they haven't thought it through well enough where they could, implement something that would be beneficial to everybody. They have to come up with these.
Well, at the end of the day, the people who are coming across in the dinghies are deliberately brought across anyway, so they're here to fight us ultimately.
Well, they'll give them a digital ID. What's to prevent that?
But one thing I was thinking about was the obvious choice, the obvious answer, or one of the obvious answers down the line is if we all went on strike, I suppose. But of course, even to the point where even if we went on something as powerful as potentially the whole country saying, okay, we're not having these digital IDs, we're all going to strike, we're still playing into their hands, aren't they? Because that's ultimately what they want, is to bring in AI and robots to do our jobs for us, so we're not needed.
Well,
precisely. They'll if we're playing to their hands, what we haven't done is we haven't grasped the enemy, we haven't grasped the situation, we haven't grasped causal factors. And I mean, I'll keep repeating this simply because this is this is the answer and the solution all in one. I mean, me and Nathan wrote a book. Chris added to the book. We wrote the answers and the solution in that book. But I'm quite happy to discuss it in a shorter context because that's 400 pages long. The answers are to become self-governing and generate self-directed behaviors based upon the principles of natural law and the understanding of objective morality. And of course, I might be speaking French to some people when I use terms like that because it's not generally understood. But natural law is the laws of creation, the spiritual laws of creation, which govern the outcomes of human behavior. So if we want to have a case for freedom in the world, when we have to work with nature in order to generate that. But what we can also do is work towards non-aggression and self-defense principles. These are the two harmonizing factors of the universe. That's what yin and yang means, if anyone understands that concept. And there's many other concepts which explain the same thing, which is the non-aggression principle and the self-defense principle. If people are harmonized with those two principles, government is surplus to requirements. So
precisely.
if I can just mention two more things. The word government means mind control. So it doesn't matter who you vote for or how beneficial they might seem to be with certain things and whatever else they bring to the party. The word itself means mind control because that's what they do. They control your mind. If you can't control your own mind, then you are being dominated. You are going to be a slave forever if you are not in charge of the vehicle that drives your body. Not only that, the word parliament means to speak lies. Parler, to speak, meant mind, to speak lies. Think about that before we vote at the next election. Anybody.
Well,
I
other
think
people vote because I don't vote. Sorry, carry on.
I
Carry
was
on,
going to
Paul.
say, I guess one of the issues we have got is that we're all dotted all over the place, and we don't have a community as such. I suppose ultimately what we need is to be in a community together as a group, and I suppose that's the biggest challenge we've got is that we're all dotted around the country, top, bottom, wherever we are, and yes, I suppose I got to stand in the park and we talk about different things, all the rest of it. But we all go back to our own places, and I mean, today there was a total of 3 of us there today, and think, well, what could we? That's just 3 people in a town. I mean, there's probably a lot more people who are awake, but we're all dotted all over the place, aren't we? How
It's
we
like
actually
Speaker's Corner. It's right there by Parliament. It's like you can go and listen to all the free speech you want, but then what good does it do you at the end?
the
Because
challenge is
the
trying to come
Parliament's still
together as
there
you.
to
Well,
dictate.
let's look at our enemy first of all. And you've got a good point there, Patrick. Aunt Sally said, and this is what's brought me on to it, ultimately they control the food supply. And I don't see how the people can succeed unless we're self sufficient. Excellent point, because communists, Dr. Edward Dutton, the Jolly Heretic, if you go onto his channel, which is very interesting, yeah, I think he's on YouTube. He looks at the communists as many of them are genetically, there's something wrong with them because most of them don't like countryside. They want to live in crowded ghettos, basically. That's where they crawl out of. And they always go for the farmers. Chairman Mao did, Stalin did, and this lot are doing it. Why? Because they control the food, they can control the people all the
Yes.
time. And this is why we need farmers to say, right, farmers markets, let's go there. That might be a little bit more expensive, but I go out of my way, even if I do pay a little bit more, to help the farmers. There's a farm shop near in walking distance from where I live. They're hanging on by their fingernails. And they're not more expensive. They're actually cheaper than a major Tesco's. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. There are other supermarkets, but should we say the other supermarkets, and they can't label things as organic because the bureaucracy. But it is near enough organic. I mean, I won't eat chicken unless it's organic because, quite honestly,
The rulers know this, and I listened the past week. We had Trump and Netanyahu speak at the United Nations, but Trump first. He knows this. The rulers know this. And for instance, Trump mentioned tariffs that would affect farmers here. And he's like, yeah, they're going to make the farmers here very rich because nobody's going to be able to import foreign goods to compete with our farmers. The farmers in this country have pure socialism where they're given benefits to farm or not to farm. Doesn't matter. They're still making money because it's a socialist system.
Yeah.
But to all of the other countries where they run the IMF and World Bank, they have to take loans and they can't farm, and our farmers benefit to no end. That's why you're never going to get farmers to coalesce around any sort of outside project outside of the subsidies that they're getting currently here in America. You can't compete with it. That's the problem. And
by the way,
you're right though. You're right though that you have to control the food supply because that's the reality, and reality controls ideas.
But of course, the biggest one that they control is the weather, and that's the biggest one. That you can grow as much food as you want, but if they're starving our climate of water, of rain, for example. Obviously, we've had very little rain over the last 6 to 8 months in the UK. Well, you can't grow crops if you're not getting any water to them.
That's right.
So
Especially in the
ultimately,
southeast.
so ultimately, the biggest control is controlling the weather forecast, and that's what they do every single day with the
Spot on.
spraying,
The biggest thing they control is the human mind. The rest of it, everything else is impartial to the control of the human mind. That's why the word government means mind control, because they govern the mind. So, I mean, I take on board the points that have been made about they control the food supply. Well, no, you could say they actually fundamentally control everything at some degree, but they only control anything, whatever that might be, because we allow them to, because we have become subservient to duress, where we're frightened to use the power of our own mind. Inside there is the most powerful weapon in the world. Now,
Yeah.
I give presentations on, you could say, on strategic level warfare and some of the weapons that have been used. And allow me, if you don't mind, just to mention a few of them. Let's start off with the Roman gladius. The Roman gladius is a short sword about that long. It killed millions of people over the few hundred years of the Roman Empire. From there, let's go on to the AK-47, and I'm just picking things at random. An interesting number that, and somebody mentioned the number 47 in chat, and that's related to Freemasonry. It's known as the 47th problem.
Trump is the 47th president. They call him number 47.
And that's why we see that number so many times, because this is in-your-face Freemasonry. It's a massive... it's a principle in Freemasonry, which it's too deep to go in at this show. But what's Trump also opened recently, he's signed off a deal for the F-47 fighter plane. Why is it a 47? But that's another story. Anyway, the AK-47, 100 million AK-47s and variants in production around the world, used everywhere. Killed millions of people. And let's go on to something a little bit more technologically advanced, whether it exists in reality or not. It's called the Tsar bomber. All right, the Tsar bomber. It's a 50 megaton nuclear bomb.
The Tsar Bomba.
Yeah, that's the one, the Tsar bomber. 50 megatons. A hydrogen bomb, I believe. Whether that actually exists as a real thing or not, I don't know.
They claim to have detonated one up north of Scandinavia.
That's right, yeah. In 1961. It was actually just prior to Halloween, and I think it was 1961. Now, I could go off on a massive tangent here and list all the times that whatever these bombs are, they do it on pagan holy dates. Again, this is why we need to understand the occult knowledge, because if you understand the dates that they employ some of these tactics, then you can half guess that or anticipate that their desired outcomes. And I'll give an example of this. A particular health emergency 5 years ago was announced on one of the most significant satanic holy dates ever. It's known as the Satanic Season of Sacrifice, and that was the date that Lockdown 1 was announced. So if people think that they don't need to understand the occult, well, guess what? The people who are violently dominating us know the occult like the back of their own hands. And if we don't understand what they realize and understand, then we are at a massive disadvantage. Hence the fact that we're all getting digital ID implemented, because we are still at a disadvantage. So the reason I mentioned weapons, the Tsar bomber is no more powerful than the human mind. This is the most powerful weapon in the world. And if it can be engaged in right action, using the principles of natural law, then it becomes ungovernable, and it will not be subjected to violent domination ever. And if more people can learn to process and harness their own human mind, engage their own weapon in self-defense and non-aggression, it's invincible. That's what we need to focus our efforts on. Truthers are good at talking to people and distributing information, waking people up. We need to wake ourselves up, then we need to wake the truth movement up, and then we need to wake up the people outside of the truth movement who haven't got a clue what's going on. That's where it needs to. That's where we need to focus attention. And I'm speaking as a military combat, 30 years experience at a high level of military strategy, and I'm laying it out on the table. If people want to take that, brilliant. If they don't, well, good luck. It's your future.
Spot on. But then let's look at it from a statistics point of view, and it does cheer you up a little bit. There's mass formation. There's a theory of it, okay, and 30%. There's a chap in Belgium that's as a professor on it. I can't think of his name. And if I could, I couldn't pronounce it. But he says that 30% of people will believe everything a government tells them. So you forget about them; they're dead from the neck upwards. 40% of people will go with the flow, and 30% of people are like us, can see straight through it. Now, all it needs is 5% of the 40% that go with the flow to come in our direction. It's game over for governments, and the government know it. That's not much, 5%. And remember, Chairman Mao got in with less than 5% support, and the Bolsheviks got in with less than 7% support. It's very small percentages. Very small percentages. But, you think about it in wars. If you or I said, right, you better go and kill some Germans, okay? You said, what? That's disgusting. How dare? And too right, it is a disgusting thing to say. But the government, or Russians, shall we say, the government can get people hyped up, and they say, oh, those terrible Russians, what they've done. And oh, by the way, DJ B2, thanks, mate. It's Matthias Desmet. That's it. That's the Belgian professor that goes into that. Now,
they use ideas. Yeah, the government,
right.
They use ideas because
they hype you up. That's it.
They know that existence calls essence into being, which existence, that's the reality, and then the essence are the ideas. And the more you know about the truth of reality, the more you can use ideas to motivate people. And because you have the truth, the truth is a unity of existence and ideas.
That's right. Aunt Sally's come out with a cracker, absolute cracker. Thanks, Aunt Sally. She said, I think digital ID is a psyop, distraction for something else that they're really planning to implement. Yes, I think you're right. I didn't think of that before then. I think you've hit on something there, Aunt Sally.
What date was this announced? Was it on
digital
Thursday?
ID?
Yeah.
Was it
I think it was
Friday?
It may have been Thursday. It coincided near the time of Trump and Netanyahu going to the United Nations. And I don't know if any of you caught either of those, but I caught both of them and listened to both of them all the way through. And I could just tell you right now that the Netanyahu speech was terrible. I mean, he lays it all out that they're good at assassinating their enemies. It's just like brazen, especially after this whole Charlie Kirk thing.
That's what they've always done. I mean, and Alice Gorgeous says, Aunt Sally, that is what I was told. We need to be ready for it. And Marlene, hello, Marlene, standing in our sovereignty, show by example.
I agree. Well done, Mylene. I agree with that, because simply there's been a load of comments, not just on the chat here and you fine gentlemen, but in the truth movement in general, who mention, oh yeah, we know what the government are doing, we're not happy about it. Well, why are you letting them? If you don't like what the government are doing, why are we still? And I'm not saying there's probably a load of people stop voting. If we've stopped voting, that means we've acknowledged the fact that there's some sort of problem. So therefore, if you don't want to vote for the maniacs, why are we giving them any time, attention whatsoever? Why are we still paying for these lunatics? Stop paying. I mean, don't take my advice, but this is, if you did, I would say, why are you paying? You're up for your own violent domination. Why are you paying your enslavement team to violently dominate you and give you a digital ID? It's lunacy. But if you've come to that level of appreciation, you've already processed some cognitive function to gain and generate sovereign effects inside your own head. Now imagine if more people gain sovereign effects inside their own head. That's where a mind war is won, from your head. The most powerful weapon in the world, and if we can gain function and control of it by understanding and coming to the conclusion that these people who will keep funding are our own worst enemy, then the battle is won.
You're right. And that Jojo Gizmo has come out with a cracker. Absolute cracker. Brilliant, this one. Thanks, Jojo. You can vote your way into communism, but you can't vote your way
that's
out.
a brilliant point.
That is bloody brilliant. That really is a good one.
I love it.
That is. But the thing is, you see, as I said, like that 30, 40, 30, people are desperate for some form of hope somewhere. And we've got these Muppets coming up, giving them fake hope, but we need real hope. Now, the thing is, if I stopped paying, someone stopped paying their council tax. I mean, I'll give you an example. I live in a cul-de-sac of about 12 or 13 properties. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, I'm the only one that hasn't had the. Everybody else has. And you see them coming back from the Muppets, medical Muppets, with their little goodie bags, full of. And I would say 50% of the people who live around me are ailing in some way. They're either obese or they got some sort of ailment. And then they are, you see them get out their cars because they don't walk anywhere, and with their little goodie bags with NHS written on the side, which are going to put in loads of shit down their throat, But this is the thing. And then they sit in front of the television watching the BBC say, "Oh, it must be true because it's on the BBC." That's the problem. And again, Yuri Brezhnev is so true. People won't do anything until the jackboot is kicking their big fat bottoms, and then it's too late. They won't do anything
because they're not in touch with reality.
That's right. Yeah.
You kind of answered that earlier by saying, I forget the numbers that you used, but when you said there's like 30% of a certain
30,
understanding.
30.
So here's the point with this. I mean, I don't waste my breath trying to educate dumbos who are that crazy that they've went along with everything the government have done in the last 5 years. I'm not saying don't speak to them and don't focus some effort on them, but you're trying. I mean, if anyone understands the principle of triage, you try to save the savable, and you don't waste time with people who are bleeding to death because you can't cure them. They'll just die eventually, and you've wasted your resources.
You got to save yourself first in order to help other people.
Yeah, that's exactly, right, Patrick. And not only that, we've got a very, very well-educated, critical thinking group of people called the Truth Movement, who just need a little bit of a nudge in the right direction to get them all into a unified modality of thinking. Now, if we already know that the people who are causing negative consequences upon us as truthers in society utilize the occult, and I'm sure loads of people have come to that conclusion. Look at Skull and Bones Lodge 322, who was attended by George Bush Jr. and George Bush Sr. and another American president called William Taft. Then several other key players in American commerce who were all associated with Skull and Bones, an occult secret society. Then look at all the presidents who were Freemasons and all the founding fathers who were Freemasons. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to come to a deduction that, the people who are violently dominating us and opposing us are practitioners of the occult. Therefore, if we understand the occult, we've got their rule book right in front of us. And guess what? It says here, natural law is the answer to the question.
Well, Puelo too. I'll pronounce it wrong. Occult is only what you don't know he's got a good point there. And he said, Eric, it's the same here, and you absolutely cannot tell them. Just like being in a 1980s zombie film. I mean, I've got neighbours that are sort of obsessed because it's with the fear porn all the time. Someone said, "Have you had your flu? What's it yet?" I said, "No, I don't have anything like that. Last time someone shoved a needle in me was when I was 11 years old at school. I didn't have much choice in the matter then, but I haven't had anything like that. But the thing is, if now I'm going off track. If I've got to be careful because we're on YouTube. If the, shall we say, the medical muppets were any good, why do people have repeat prescriptions? Surely it would cure them. Think about it, and you actually see them. I mean, I sometimes, because if I only drive if I have to go over, say, 3 or 4 miles, or if it's chucking it down with rain. But normally I'll go by bike or walk, and say 10 miles. I'm not going to cycle that. I'm going to go by car, but I often take a walk down, and the supermarket's about 40 minutes, 3/4 an hour walk away. It's an out of town supermarket, and I have to pass a chemist, and you see them walking out the quacks across the road into the chemist shop and out with their little goodie bags, with their Muppet bags, and you think, the amount of sick people that's around. And I think there's look at the food that people are eating there. You go into a supermarket, there's nothing that's edible there. It's all carbohydrates. There's very little protein. When you go to the supermarket, it's shit, basically.
And the thing is, it's not just that they're sick. There's also a lot of damaged people out there, in the respect that, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I mean where they look like they've been damaged by a certain thing.
Yes.
And either they can't speak properly, or they've got a limp, or there's some random behaviour going on, and they've done a crack. The NHS and associated entities have done a cracking job of damaging the
well, it's the opposite
beings,
of what it's supposed to
basically.
be. I mean, my parents, they were really, they believed the PR, and I can't blame them. I'm not blaming them for that, because let's face it, years ago, all people had was the television. And before that, all they had was radio. And before that, all they had was books or the town crier. But my parents are not that old. But anyway, they passed on now. But the fact is that the NHS runs on PR, the best PR our money can pay for, and that's it. And people, to me, that is alternative. Natural is natural, and but
let's be honest. You go into hospital, and you don't go into hospital to get better. I mean,
no,
my mum was in there. My mum was in there about 3 weeks ago, and she caught the apparently on the ward they caught the imaginary convid. Well, we know that doesn't exist. So what actually is it in that ward that was being spread around? And if it's in a place where you're supposed to get better, but then, where on earth did it come from? It's just,
the belief is that they're going to alleviate suffering, because we're all getting older and going to die someday, and they play off the fear and the pain that caused by the body breaking down. The check engine light comes on the body, and you got to fix it. We're all gonna head there sooner or later. And they play off that fear with people, and it's a good way to manipulate.
Oh, it is. It is. And my neighbour's just starting to wake up to that fact. She said, it's fear. She said, because I call it fear porn. She said, yeah, it's fear porn. It is. I mean, let's face it. If us in this little group were, we devised some method of, I don't know, earwax analysis. All right, I just made that up. All right, earwax analysis. We paid thousands of pounds to find out about earwax analysis, and we want to make money on it. So we'd lobby. And remember, we've already got pots of money. We'd lobby a few MPs, and you say, look, make a few bob on the side, because we need the government to behind us for people to be worried about earwax, because it could kill you. I said, what? Yeah. And it might have been, I don't know, one person in a billion that's got killed by earwax.
Here's another analogy, probably maybe even a better analogy. would be the early Christian martyrs, like we were mentioning the Romans, and how they would put gladiator fights together, and
Yeah.
they'd feed Christians to lions and have gladiators kill them and all that sort of thing. And the reason that they would do that was because they wouldn't worship their idols. The Roman emperor would say to the Christians, your God, worship our gods, and if you don't worship our gods, then we're going to torture you to death until you do. And we'll just dangle this carrot out in front of you. Like, you just got to worship, you just got to offer incense to the idol, and we'll stop the torture, we'll stop the fire, and you'll be worse for wear, but you'll still be alive. And
That's right.
that's just
That's what happened.
an analogy for what's happening in this modern day.
It's what happened in the 16th century in this country as well with the martyrs, who would Mark Windows knows more about it, but they used to burn people at the stake in Smithfield in London. It's quite common because they said something that they didn't agree with, and that was it. But they had a choice whether they would go to be burnt to death or not, and they chose to be burnt to death.
It shows you the power of the ideas.
Yeah. Yes.
And whether those ideas are coincide with existence, with reality, that's the question. Because did you burn the witch because she didn't drown, or whatever it was? to
You're
test
right.
the witch?
Now, Alice Gould just said, my mother was in hospital last week. I'm sorry to hear that, Alice. I hope she's made a full recovery. She stopped another patient from signing a DNR. They couldn't wait for my mum to go home.
Hey, well done.
Yes. And I like what Paulo 2 says. He says, fear of death stops you living. That's right. Well, we actually run by a death cult. I really do believe it. It is a death cult.
100%.
Yes. Do you work to live or live to work? Well, if you enjoy what you do, you don't work. And the trouble is, there's a lot of people that don't enjoy what they're doing.
That's another thing. We can't get out of this without people with leisure time to think of these ideas and write the ideas in books.
That's right.
Or even read the book.
AI could turn the world into a heaven, because people will be released to do the things they want to do. And you imagine in an ideal world, you'd have people doing fantastic architecture, beautiful sculptures and things like that. You'd have gardens, beautiful. It'd be a beautiful place to be, and it could be like that because AI would do all the unpleasant crap that that humans used to do. They would be our slaves, the robots. So,
instead, the humans are the slaves, and we've submitted our will to the. You mentioned the word death cult, and I mean, I 100% agree with that, because they are very much a cult, not occult, cult. They are a cult, a dangerous cult who have some form of charismatic leader, even though Mr. Starmer's not exactly the most charismatic person in the world. He still managed to charm 68 million people in Britain to follow his absolute BS. No matter what he comes out with, 68 million people will follow his every word. Why? Because they're all mind controlled in a cult.
You're right.
And this is why the brain is the most powerful weapon, and if we can control it, if our finger is on the trigger of our own hydrogen bomb in there, then we become unstoppable. But how do you reach out to 68 million people? One mind at a time. So if one person listening to Steve, the crazy Geordie, who's spent most of his life in the army and thinks the information resonates with him, I tell you what, don't even read the book. Just do a Google search, get the AI algorithm thing, and type in the words natural law or objective morality, and give yourself 5 minutes to understand that. Then look at the word freedom, and then look at the word human rights, as in what is a right. All the answers will be there. There might be a little bit of variation on it, but fundamentally, if we understand these, we've got the key to the nuclear bomb. We will understand the power of the universe in a short space of time.
Well,
and we can pass that on.
what sums it up, Steve? Sorry, I didn't mean, if you finish, I
No.
didn't mean to talk across you. Monty Python. There's a sketch in Monty Python which sums it up. Whereas a chap says, was it Monty Python and the Holy Grail? Make way, I am the king. And someone says, who says? Well, I'm the king. Why? Why should you be the king? And it's a brilliant sketch. And the king says, will you shut up? No. Who says you're the bloody king? I don't think you're a king. Why should it? And it's a classic. And this is the trouble. These people are in positions of importance. For example, King Charles. Yes. Oh, it's the king. Hello, sir. Oh, and they speak lightly to it. Oh, yes. No, he was put there his ancestors came over and enslaved the English in 1066. He's not the king. The real king of England, if you look up for kings and things like that, who were the eyes and the ears of the poor and the underdog at one time, and they'd help the underdog, and that was their job. The last one was Harold, who's
Harold?
actually Harold, and he's buried up the road to where I live in Waltham Abbey. And I'm hoping to do a little film in search of Harold's grave, because according to my neighbour, I mean, I've only lived here most of my life, so I haven't I haven't seen it yet. There is, I think, there a stone which is Harold, so I'm going to find it and I'll film it, and I'm hoping to do that for a little project that's coming up that Paul English has got in mind. I don't know how much he wants me to say about it. You're in on it, Patrick, and I think a few of us are, but I think I better keep tight-lipped about it until it's officially announced, But that's it. We have little sketches. So, and that's it. That 1066, and people don't realise the royalty that are there are Normans. They're not. They're slave owners, and that's how your Parliament came about. Because before 1066 is a very free land. You didn't have the bureaucracy, and I don't think you had taxation. So
I've often wondered why there's never been a king called Wayne.
King Wayne?
wait.
No, I was thinking more the other way around.
What about Queen Cheryl? Or Queen Tracy? No, Queen Tracy. Has there ever been a Queen Tracy? Or what's the King? Just think they're always sort of Alfred the Great. Why couldn't there have been something like Eric the Useless or Eric the Boring or something like that? Or Eric the Flatulent, the man who introduced, whole food into this country, something like that, or beans. But why can't we have a Queen Tracy? Or
Wasn't it like Pepin the Short or Pepin the Fat or something? I remember reading about such characters. They would do that. They'd give them a little whatever. It's like Vlad the Impaler, for instance.
Vlad the Impaler, yes. Oh, King Charles is distantly related to.
Right.
Yes. Oh, Vlad the Impaler. But he likes shoving people. But Alice Gorgeous said, yeah, that was the scene from Monty Python's. You're not the king for round here. That is it. Yeah. But perhaps Fockham, we should have a royalty, and we have King Darren and Queen Tracy. Did you ever see that film Morons from Outer Space?
No.
It's a classic.
So.
It's a classic. It's a comedy. It's done in the 80s. Jimmy Nowell's in it, and it's about an identical Earth, which is the other side of the sun, which we can't see. And some people believe that. And these morons, and they're more technically advanced than we are, except for the load of morons. And then somehow they get to Earth, and they think that they're highly intelligent, and they're not, as thick as two short planks. And there's a classic scene in it where the girl gets, and she's like a typical Tracy. She speaks like this, and she, oh, let's put some lippy on, and she's sitting in this car, and it goes over a bump, and she goes, oh, and she does this sort of shape up the side of her face. The further on in the film, you see all the women who meet the Tracy, I think she's marvelous, have all got their lipstick going up on the side of their face. And it just goes to show how bloody stupid people are. And it was a send up of Close Encounters, but comedy, an English
Class.
comedy. With
I'll have to check it out.
Oh, morons from outer space should be creased up with laughter.
Did a load of them send a mothership and they've stayed here?
I think they did actually.
Yeah.
But
I think
Jimmy
I've
now.
met some of them.
Well, you know, the beginning, there's all this sort of like NASA and all these people all around this spaceship, and they take the door off. Jimmy now walks inside, he's walking along. He looks outside. He says, "Did you roll this bloody door off?" You know? And they're from the planet Plop. That's it, a planet called Plop.
I'll have to check the Holy Grail one out as well, because I think that's a very philosophical point. Who appointed you the king? And I mean, I'm talking about brain dynamics a lot.
What watery tarts distributing swords is no method for electing a government.
That's it. It's a classic lines in that. Whoever wrote it, well, I think Michael Palin acts the part of the peasant, doesn't he? And I don't know who actually. Oh crumbs! The other bloke, I can't remember his name, who acts the part of the king. But do you know in Monty Python, the Holy Grail, do you know why they had coconuts going to make the noise?
They didn't have budget for a horse.
They didn't have budget for a horse. No. That's not a film I like. But
and it was directed from a fella from here in Minnesota.
Really?
What's his face? Terry Gilliam.
Is he from Minnesota?
Yeah.
So, you know, the more I hear about Minnesota, I kind of warming to it. It's sort of
Minnesota.
Like Minnesota. Trouble is, it's a bit cold in the winter. That's the only downside.
Yeah, a bit windy and cold, snowy.
Yeah, but you're not far from Canada, are you?
Not very far. Nope, not at all.
That's because who's that filmmaker who I can't stand? He came from
Canada.
No, he came from Minnesota, but it was a very German part of Minnesota. I can't think where it is.
Spielberg?
No.
What did he make?
He's a commie, American commie. Can't think.
Commie.
He does these. He does these documentary films. He's against guns and things like that. And he did a documentary where he went to try and speak to a famous film star. What was his name? Charlton Heston. He was the head of the top of the head man in the gun lobby, and
I think I know who you're talking about. Kind of a bigger guy with
fat
glasses.
Guy,
yeah. He's from Michigan.
That's it. He's from Michigan. Yeah, fat.
Yeah. I don't. It's hard to. I think he did that movie Bowling for Columbine.
That's it. And someone in chat will come up with it. I can guarantee it. But
it's forgettable.
Yeah. Yes, it is very forgettable, isn't it? And was it Democracy Today? That's another forgettable show as well. Have you seen that?
Democracy Now?
Democracy Now. That's it. It's a very forgettable show. That is. You see it once. Hey, DJ B2. Michael Moore. Yes. Yes. And yes, Data Man does documentaries. You want to if you're suffering from what's that thing? You can't get to sleep. You know, watch one
Insomnia.
of these. That's it. Thanks, mate. Insomnia. You'll be off to sleep with no time at all. You see, but very. I wouldn't say liberal. I think he's a slightly left Chairman Mao, isn't he, Michael Moore?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Makes California look right wing.
Yeah.
Now, Pialo 2, I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong, people, or pronounce your name wrong, sorry. People are so stupid they don't realise they are stupid. And the worst of them are the ones with a PhD. Spot on. And
there's a certain arrogance that comes with that. With the title.
That's
of,
right.
of higher education.
And
That's not to say that all of them are that way, but the majority seem to be.
and
And then they get then they get their degree and go and work at McDonald's
that's
because they
right.
can't get a job.
And the usury scam of student loans paying back
Yep.
interest to the government.
That's right. And someone with a name that should be our cultural attaché, Asperger's as Fudge. I think that'd be a nice name for the Fockham cultural attaché, Asperger's as Fudge. Says Queer Starmer will get on well with Vlad the Impaler. Yeah, he would really, wouldn't he? You know, it's like, you know.
Well, he really hates Putin, that's for certain. That
Yes.
Vladimir.
Yes. Yeah.
I
But
think he mentioned that a few times in the digital ID thing.
yeah, he says,
The
"Oh, he's a
speech he gave.
bitch."
He can't hate him that much. He's using all his best tactics against the British people. So,
But
it's,
quite honestly, in a war against NATO and Russia, I wouldn't put my money on NATO.
No, there's no motivation.
No.
well, here's an interesting point. Have a look at, and in fact, everyone in the chat should have a look on the internet and just have a look at NATO's new building in Belgium, and then tell me they've got no links to Nazi Germany. That's all I'm
Yes,
gonna
a
say.
swastika. Isn't it a swastika?
It's not a swastika, but it's you're on the right lines.
Really?
Is it in the colors of the gay flag?
It's not, but it's in a very particular shape that's immediately recognizable.
Mr.
And
H?
Say again?
Mr. H?
No, but it's worth a look.
He lived over there, didn't he? Sorry. I wasn't going to get a call and knock on the door tomorrow for doing that. Joking. I'm just joking.
Well, I mean, our world leaders seem to get away with all of this evil stuff in plain sight all the time. I mean, you just have to look at the United Nations in New York. I mean, everybody probably realizes that the word New York in Gematria equates to 666. But if I have a look at the layout of 666, I think it's either 5th or 1st Avenue, I can't remember, United Nations Plaza. That's funny. Why did they choose that for their location?
And if you look at there's lots of 1960s, what do you call it? Oh, hang on a minute. DJ B2 says SS lapel pins.
Yep, right on the money. Very peculiar shape.
Yes. Oh, yes, you're right. But it's interesting, isn't it? Now, for example, in London, there's loads of derelict, semi-derelict 1960s office blocks that were owned by the government, ministry buildings. And they're sort of ex-telephone exchanges. And there's a fellow that's looked into it, and he reckons that there's underground. This is where the digital ID will be run from, underground. And the way you get into those buildings, every one is number 33. That's strange.
Here's an interesting one, because you mentioned 33, and I'll be brief with this. I believe it was 1971 or 1972, and you mentioned telecoms, the Telecom Tower in London.
Yes.
Floor 33, Halloween night, blown up by the IRA. Floor 33.
Oh, wasn't that retribution for an attack that was made by who was it that made that attack? I think I know what you're talking about. There was some sort of IRA attack in the Manhattan area.
If I was to mention when was the first IRA car bomb on March the 22nd, perhaps that might answer your questions. And if and this is a horrible one, but do you remember the I think it was 2 young kids killed in Warrington?
Oh, I remember that. That was horrendous.
Yeah,
That
all
really
I'd say is check the date for that, and then tell me that these things aren't done deliberately. Or with sinister intent, and not just to cause fear and alarm in a terror situation, but also with some ritualistic properties to them. Remember, March the 22nd was when they announced lockdown 1 in the UK. Halloween night is when they announced lockdown 2 in the UK. 33 days later, was when lockdown 2 ended, and 666 days between lockdown and the end of restrictions, which was coordinated to finish on a date which is prior to the heliacal rising of Sirius. Tell me that these things aren't orchestrated.
Since we're going into kind of like a woo area, woo woo, there's the whole Charlie Kirk thing that just took place. And I was listening to, I listen regularly to George Galloway's show. He was talking about, there was a Nicolas Cage movie that came out in 1998 called Snake Eyes by Brian De Palma directing it, the same guy that did Scarface in the 80s. And it was about a character named Charles Kirkland. And Charles Kirkland was assassinated by an assassin who shot him through the neck on September 10th, and the assassin's name was Tyler.
Wow.
Which is who they say Tyler Robinson is the main suspect right now.
Yeah.
In the case.
And do you know what Tyler is? The guy who stands at the entrance to a Masonic lodge.
Wow.
Really?
I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
Well, did you notice the 3 hats with the number 47 written on in front of his stand? 4 plus 7 is what? 11. 11 is 33.
Yeah, and speaking of the Freemasons, you know that triangle symbol, like the upside down with the thumbs on top and the pointer fingers together? The Snake Eyes movie with Nicolas Cage has Nicolas Cage making that sign on the poster.
Yeah.
That they use to promote the movie.
Well,
so if I was to say...
the compass and square, isn't that also the shape of when on the baseball pitch?
Yeah. Baseball diamond.
That is basically in the same shape as the Freemason thing.
They say that that's one of the most Masonic sports.
And interestingly, I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but we've got a Masonic lodge in Newport, not far from where I am, and they're always in old world buildings. You never see a Masonic lodge in a modern building. They're always in oldie worldy type ones.
And it makes what's the point?
And I'm wondering if it's because there's underground tunnels. I mean, we had something in Wellington here, not far from where I am, where there was a lot of sex issues going on with young girls being raped, basically. And the street that they said it was on is an infamous street in Wellington. But the other side of the railway line, literally the other side of it, is a Masonic lodge. And you think, well, maybe it actually wasn't that street at all. And is there more of a link to the street next to it on the other side of the railway line?
So it's on a rail line? Because that's interesting. Here in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is the capital of Minnesota, the main Masonic lodge, it's like the biggest one in the area, and it's right on the main rail line that goes through St. Paul by the river.
That's weird, isn't it? I'll tell you something else. These 5 masks, the G ones I'm talking about. I don't know if I can mention that on YouTube, but they are strategically placed. Now, there's one near where I live, and opposite is sheltered housing for elderly folk. And then next to them is an infant school, and the other way is a doctor's surgery. And it's on the side of a roundabout. Isn't that weird? And they always seem to be sort of strategic. And someone suggested, this was in chat on Telegram, my Telegram channel, that I can't remember who it was, that's what they're going to use for the 15-minute cities. So they'll know if you go past that place, whether you've been out of your 15-minute city.
And I don't know if this means anything, but if you look at Rumble and YouTube right now, it just changed. It was 22 and 22. As far as people watching.
Can I pull up on that number? Because 22 is massive. And somebody mentioned, I think Paul mentioned about baseball. Baseball is based on the Masonic square and compass. And if we add up the players and the linesmen in baseball on both sides, we'll get to the number 22. Now, football is also based on Masonic principles, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course it is. That's why you've got 22 players kicking a football around. And what colour does the referee wear traditionally? Black and white.
Yeah,
Black and white.
stripes.
We see
Yep.
the same thing in motor racing because Freemasonic principles have been emblazoned upon certainly Western culture for generations, and most people have got no idea. We don't have to look any further than the police to realize that that's a massive Masonic outfit. That's all they are: Freemasonic gangsters, thugs for the mafia of Freemasonry. That's what the police are. Policy enforcers for government. They're just thugs in uniform. They wear the black and white checkerboard. They don't even understand the symbolism that they're surrounded in. But the reason I'm mentioning number 22, somebody mentioned in chat, weren't the, I forgot who it was, but it said, wasn't the IRA orchestrated by MI5? Well,
It is.
I'm not going to answer that.
Rocky
but
Road to Love 17. Here we are.
Brilliant. Well, all I'm going to mention is if we put the letters MI into a gematria calculator, we'll get the number 22. So MI5, MI6, let's look at what are they known as now? They're known as SIS. Remember SS? SS is 19, as in COVID-19, because 19 is the number of beginnings and endings, but it's also the numbers that equate to what are we all chipped with? Artificial intelligence, AI. But the reason I'm mentioning SIS, let's plug that into a gematria calculator. Remember that number 47, which has got massive significance in Freemasonic tradition. That's what we get, 47 SIS, Secret Intelligence Services.
Well.
No.
And do you
Speaking
remember
of
that? Joe?
SS,
SS,
say
yes.
again?
Remember
Well,
that?
SS.
Carry on. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Oh, all right, I'll be brief. So
No.
SS. So we know what the Schultzstaffen was in Nazi Germany. Well, why was it called the Schultzstaffen or the Schwarz Sun, which you might be aware of, the Black Sun? The Black Sun,
Yes.
which relates to the sons of Saturn, SS.
Saturnalia.
SS 19 and 19. If we add that up, we get 1 and 9 is 10 essentially. So that equates to 10 and 10. Take off the 0, that's 1 and 1. But the principle behind the SS is, well, what have we got now? We've got the Celis Scouts, which were the Rhodesian Special Forces. We've also got the British Special Forces, the SAS, SS, the SPS, the SS. So isn't this a little bit curious how we've got all of these combinations playing part in our military traditions? And if we look, for example, at the military rank structure, 1 chevron, 2 chevrons, and 3 chevrons. Now just do a little internet search and look at what the Masonic rank structures are. And you'll very soon determine that the occult is the guiding principle that governs humanity, because it's emblazoned in everything.
Oh, Alice Gorgeous has come out with a classic. SS Social Services.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And they are like the bloody SS.
Yeah, exactly. That's now you know.
And according to Paul Hardcastle, the average age of a serviceman in Vietnam was 19.
No, 19, yeah.
Yes.
Yep. That's why they picked it for COVID.
19. Isn't that strange? Is that where these numbers come up all the time? But the thing is, people get muddle gematria, with numerology, and I believe it's two separate things.
Numerology is based on the days, the year, and dates.
That's right.
Whereas
That's right.
gematria
It's
is
totally different.
words as numerals.
Yes, it's a very different thing. Yes.
But they both work hand in hand. If you, like with celebrity deaths, they'll be linked to their birthday, their last or their next birthday, day of the year. So numerology plays a part in that. I mean, we're talking about Charlie Kirk. I was just having a quick look at what I did on that. It was only very brief. So he died 34 days before his birthday, and murder equals 34. And it was 4 weeks and 6 days before his next birthday, and sacrifice and execution both equal 46. So so his death would be based on numerology rather than gematria, but obviously the words match the. It's like that Ukrainian woman that was seen acting out on board that train in America, and that was all linked to the mayor of Charlotte. This Ukrainian woman died at age 23, and the mayor, or whoever she was, of Charlotte, it was 2 weeks and 3 days before her next birthday. So they always link to the mayor or the governor of whichever state it may be, or town, or.
Well, the Charlie Kirk thing relates to the governor of Utah. He had a lot of say in the investigation, and they really want to. They have a desire to say it's been solved and stop looking into it. And get the feds involved.
Well. But do you think that Trump will be the last president? They've said he'd be the last president.
No.
Really?
I don't think so.
It was written about by Ingersoll Lockwood in the 1800s. Ingersoll Lockwood wrote a book called The Last President, and he described
I've heard of
the
that.
Adventures of Baron von Trump.
Von Trump.
Yeah.
And what about that other bloke who's used to? Edgar Casey. Didn't he say something about the last president? I'm not sure if it was him or someone else. But I know that Nicholas von something, South African clairvoyant in the 1920s, who's been very, very accurate. He predicted Trump. He said somebody with a quiff, and Trump has got a quiff in his hair. And but the thing is, I mean, does he house train his wig, his hair, sorry, or it's and the other thing is, I know I keep on about this, but why can't he buy a decent pair of trousers? They're all baggy at the bottom. They're also, I don't know. It's a really strange when he go from the sort of waist downwards. He's a funny shape, isn't he, Trump? He's got funny shoes.
He's a big man as far as like being rotund.
Yes.
He likes his fast food McDonald's, which is kind of odd. But you know you're a rich man, and then you just eat junk food. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense. And he's got swollen ankles and God knows what. But do you remember that when there was all on the plane, it was all strategically placed with the names?
With Kennedy.
Kennedy, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was with Trump, wasn't it? Yes, right. Trump and Kennedy.
Trump and Kennedy. Yeah, Kennedy being the health advisor, czar, or whatever you want to call him, CDC.
Is he for real? Or is he just because? Quite honestly, if he was, I hope he is for real. But
Kennedy,
you know, yeah. But when I say for real, really going for the pharmaceutical industry, because they'd soon bump him off if he really was going for them. I don't know.
I was listening to somebody talking. Go just one thing. He had Dennis Kucinich.
I'll speak after you.
Sorry,
I was saying that he had Dennis Kucinich running his campaign for president, who is very anti genocide. Is that the polite way to say it? But then Kennedy got his handler in, this guy named Smoley Botich or whatever. Soon after he made comments, there was a big thing about the COVID vaccine being effective for people of certain races that he had made a comment about. That got a lot of heat.
We're on YouTube. Be a bit careful.
I know. Yeah, I know. But it's about Kennedy.
Yeah. But I sorry, I didn't mean that. But I mean, I believe free speech. I want everybody to speak openly. That's what I want. But I mean, I don't know what to think of Kennedy. He's seems to be okay, but I don't know because I'm only seeing it from second and third hand. I just don't know. I'm not in America, so But
You'd have to really understand the dynasty of the Kennedys and what they were up against.
yes,
They're definitely been taken over by the wrong people. We'll put
really.
it that way. I think they're very manipulated by the people in charge of things.
But
Could I settle that argument very quickly? I mean,
certainly.
Kennedy, he seems like a decent bloke. And to be fair, Mr. Trump seems like a decent bloke. And I'm sure if you went for a pint with them down the local boozer, they'd all be decent blokes. Just like all the blokes I work with in the army, they're all nice people, even though we were fundamentally employed to be murderers. Coppers, I've worked with a load of coppers. Some of my personal friends have been coppers. And all the ones I've known have seemed to be like nice people. Sadly, this is where the distinction needs to be drawn. And I'm speaking about myself as well, because I was in this mindset, this modality of base consciousness, where I would just do what I was told because somebody with superior authority told me to do something, i.e., go and murder this bunch of villagers because we don't like the colour of their skin on bequest of the British government. And you get the picture with all of that stuff. But the point I'm making is nobody in the police, the military, or the government, not one single person, no matter what their mindset is a decent and moral human being. Not one of them. They never can be and never will be, simply because they are dominating other human beings by using fear, violence, and duress. They are employing tactics which cause physical violence, imprisonment, theft. They are opposing every principle of natural law. Everybody in the police, the military, and the government is in direct violation of the principles of natural law. Therefore, they cannot ever be considered to be moral human beings.
And the thing of Kennedy was he seemed to be one of the few public figures that were given an opposing voice to what was going on during the lockdown era. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
He was given an awful lot of media time.
If that was the case, if he was a decent human being, he would have immediately resigned from positions of power, and he would have explained to everybody that government is not essential and that the violent domination of any individual is immoral. So on that principle alone, he can't be a good guy, unfortunately.
Well, that's what I'm pointing out, is he was one of the few outside voices that was allowed in.
He was an oppositional voice, but he was still promoting government, which still means mind control, which still equates to the violent domination of other people.
Let me put it this way: controlled opposition.
I think you're right.
Especially when you think that at the same time that Kennedy was promoting, obviously trying to put people off having the jibby jabs, that the likes of Dr. Buttar, do you remember Dr. Buttar? He was pointing out the truth of what was really going on, and he was bumped off. So he was effectively doing the same as Kennedy. What's his face? And he was basically removed. So you think, well, yeah.
But actually, Patrick, Kingston Whitler has mentioned your brother here.
Oh.
Just made his first interception one-handed in his career.
Nice.
Chanel. Is that your brother?
Leopold Chanel, yeah. He plays for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ah.
He's got a couple Super Bowl rings.
Ah. Interesting.
And then the guy on the team is married to Taylor Swift, or is going to be, who's one of the most popular. She gets promoted like crazy.
This is an interesting one. Aunt Sally said, maybe Trump's trousers are accommodating something else, like a colostomy bag or something. Don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I didn't want to say it. It sounds disgusting, but yeah.
Might explain the poo stains then.
Yeah.
It just makes room for the diaper, and that's what explains the baggy bottoms.
was it MFI and IKEA control everything?
IKEA?
IKEA. You got IKEA, haven't you?
Yeah, we have them.
Yes. You poor
Crazy
sots.
Swedes.
Yes.
So
Hello.
in order to gain freedom, people need to be in charge of themselves and become self-governing. To bring back that argument, we all want freedom. Well, if we want freedom, the only person who can control any other person is oneself. Nobody has the right to rule others. A fundamental principle written into the Constitution of America, which most of the Americans have forgotten about, and the rest of the world has forgotten about. Nobody's got the right to rule another, yet here we all, I mean, not us, but, speaking figuratively, here
Part
we
of the
all
problem
talk
with our
about,
Constitution is it lacks any sort of acknowledgement of God. That's the biggest issue with the Constitution.
Well,
yeah,
on your dollar note, it says, "In God we trust." I would have thought it was in
Well, that took
in usury
they
we
did
trust.
that was an anti-communist thing in the 50s. That was to make us look good.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
take
even
the
the
first letter,
Constitution itself. Sorry, Paul, go on.
I'm saying if you take the first letter of each of the words on the $1 bill, you get Masons.
Really?
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the top of the
Exactly, yeah.
$1 bill, you've got the all-seeing eye.
That's the
Yeah.
point.
On the
Yes.
back, and
Yeah.
the pyramid with the all-seeing eye,
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
and then
I
the
agree
Great Seal.
That should be enough. Just looking at the $1 bill should be enough to settle any argument about what really governs the world. Well, it's occult. It's
Well, the
occultism.
Great Seal has the Star of Rembrandt on it, the hexagram.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
hexagon.
there's loads of people now becoming aware that all of this occult symbology, numerology, gematria, etymology is making massive significance to the understanding of how we're perceiving the world. Yet one thing we haven't put together yet, and I'm speaking again figuratively as a collective, we haven't put together what it all means. Well, it is a guidance to distinguish good and evil. And some of these principles, when I mention natural law, forget about anything else that happens in the occult world. Natural law is the deciding factor of what this all alludes to. We can go down conspiracies till the end of time. I could mention the number 77 for 77 minutes, the number 33 for 33 hours, and the number 22 for 22 days. And I still wouldn't lose steam of where these connections are. But what it relates to is how the mind and the universe are interlinked and directly governed between the values of natural law.
When people hear this, the numerology and gematria stuff, their eyes kind of glaze over. Normal people, normies, so to speak.
Oh, no.
Though there might, they use it, no doubt, but most people just don't. They don't understand.
Well, when you talk to people, they're all very sort of in there what the BBC tells them. I mean, I like what Rocky Road to Love 17. Sorry, Paul, I'll be with you a moment. To 17 says, politics attracts sociopaths, I'd say psychopaths actually, without empathy. There should be a mandatory sociopathy, I can't pronounce that word, test for those applying for important positions in politics. I agree with you. But
in the Bible, they were called publicans, and they were in the same group as tax collectors. They're like the lowest of low.
Well, I agree with you.
Avoid.
What type of person wants to become a politician? Ask yourself that question. And
Someone's gonna make a lot of money.
Years ago, they were in it for the good of the people. There were a few decent, honest politicians. I think Lindbergh was a decent bloke. I think it's Lindbergh's father, wasn't it? He was wasn't he?
Lindbergh Senior, the one that spoke against the Federal Reserve Act.
That's right. And there's a
senator
chap who was, I can't think of his name, over here, who was, he had a French name. I can't think of his name. Sorry. But he, in the 20s and 30s, he said a lot of truth. Nye Bevin, I think, was an honest bloke. He came from rags to riches. Well, not that much rich, but, he was a miner. And there these fellas really spoke from the heart, but they don't exist anymore. They've gone. They really thought, because when you think about it, in the late Victorians, Edwardians, and the 1920s and 30s, there was a lot of things happening which made things better for the working person.
Yes.
And that all went tits up about 1980. I mean, for example, people don't realise that I think it was before 1930. I don't hold me on this, but people did not get an annual holiday in this country. So when you worked, you didn't get a holiday at all. You just worked, carried on working. And it's only after, I think, 1945 that you had statutory, you had to have several weeks holiday.
Wouldn't you say that the standard for judging a government is based on how they treat the poor?
I agree. There shouldn't be poor.
Veterans.
I would just add to that I would, and I mean, I can prove this. I prove this on my channel. You can't have a moral government. It doesn't exist. You can't have a society that can ever embrace freedom if they're under the authority and will of the government. It doesn't exist. It's a physical impossibility. So there's no such thing as a moral government. I would agree with Eric that in the past there was more morality in society as a whole, and government members in small numbers were probably more moral. But let's look at World War One. That was 100 years ago. Members of government forced millions of people to their deaths. Some of them on satanic holy dates. I might add the Battle of the Somme on one of the most significant satanic holy dates. World War II, plenty of members of parliament and governments across the world sent millions of people to their deaths, including civilians, women and children. None of that would have ever been possible had governments not been involved. So if we want a moral, free society, governments can't exist. It just can't. Military, police, governments can't exist if you want freedom, if you want a moral society. And that's why we need the power of the mind, so we can understand the dynamics that make this possible. If we can't understand it in our minds and agree with it in our minds, we can't do any actions to generate freedom. This is why the occult is massively important.
You're spot on. I mean, Heritage Getfuck says, Andrew Bridgen says it all about MPs. Well, he was one, wasn't he? And now we've got here, oxymoron equals, this is Alex Gorgeous, equals good leaders. Well, you're right. Actually, Steve, you're spot on. But I think that if we did away with government straight away, I think it's true what Nathan and that we were saying. It'd have to be a gradual process because there's too many ding-dongs.
I agree with that.
Because it would.
We are in that process now, Eric, I would say, because what we're doing is we're debating, we're using rhetoric in order to come to an understanding.
That's right.
We're doing something called the trivium process, which was harnessing information. Information leads to knowledge, and knowledge generates wisdom. And when we have wisdom, we can put out right action into the world based on a large quantity of learning. So that's why we're going through a process now of, I wouldn't, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have said that the government is a bad thing because I used to work for the clowns. Now, knowing what I know, I would say it's the worst thing in the world. But how do I get that information across to people?
Yeah. Sorry, please carry on, Steve. Sorry, I chimed in.
No, go on.
I was going to say more people have been killed by their own governments than all the wars put together. That's a statistic. They are positively dangerous. And going straight off on a tangent, have you noticed something? Steve, ex-army, he's got army shoulders. I've never been in the army. I've got sloping shoulders. I just noticed that. And that's
not the way I'm sitting.
Yeah. I mean, you notice, my dad, his shoulders were like that. It's because you hold the rifles. It's funny, isn't it? And you can always tell someone says, "I've been in the army," and you say, "Yeah, got square shoulders." It's like these actors. You see them actors. We're tough Marines. and they got sloped shoulders. They haven't got square
Yeah,
shoulders.
right.
You know,
I think I must have been a bad lad because I used to get punishment press ups all the time.
Hey, well, I was going to say earlier on that I had a quick look at natural law in gematria, and even that equals 33.
There
Isn't
you
that
have
weird,
it.
isn't it? That is
If you
really
have a look
weird.
at human DNA's got 33 twists to it. And we've probably
Really?
all realized that the human spine's got 33 vertebrae. Jesus allegedly died at the age of 33. Why
Right.
is that? Because 33 is massively connected to alchemy, and alchemy is a science under occultism. And if we realize that, here's another number for you, 322, which relates to March the 22nd, which is the satanic season of sacrifice, which was the date that Lockdown 1 was announced, and many other things, such as Crocus City. Do you remember that a couple of years back in Russia somewhere? Crocus City, let's look at that for a second. March the
Crocus City. I remember
22nd.
that.
Yeah, Crocus City was a terror attack in Russia.
Oh,
Um,
yes, I remember that. Yeah.
yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
It was March the 22nd, the satanic season of sacrifice. But look at Crocus City, CC. C is the third letter, CC 33. But let's have a look at a few other things. The Belgian bomb, the Westminster Bridge attack, the U.S. invasion of Libya, the Iraq War shock and awe campaign. Why was all of this instigated on March the 22nd? Is it because the people in the government are Satan worshipping scumbags who don't have our best interests at heart and have to perform ritual blood sacrifices in plain sight by hiding the knowledge of these things to people?
Well, I
Just
want to add
what
something.
we're
I want
saying.
to add something to that as well, Steve, because I've been looking at the World Cup and the European Cup finals and so on, and links to major events that have taken place either before or after. And
Yeah.
with the 322, and I do apologise to anyone who hates me mentioning the word train, but I'm going to mention the word train. So the World Cup 1966, okay, that took place on the what date was it now? The 30th of July 1966. Well, on the 13th of May of that year, there was a major crash, a rail crash outside Warrington, where the locomotive was fleet number D322, the number you've just been speaking about. Right?
Right. Wow, that's interesting.
Okay. Now at the time there was 200 of these locos, so they could have picked any one of them, but it was that one, D322, and it took place on the 13th of May 1966. This accident took place, which is a day that leaves 232 in the year, which is 322 in another order. And then we've got it took place 2 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days before the World Cup final, which is 322 in again in a different order. And one of the most important goal that was mentioned from that World Cup final was in the 101st minute, where it went to 3-2. So if you drop the zero, you've got 1 + 1 is 2, plus the score of the goal, which was 3-2-2. So there's 4
That's
that
crazy, isn't it?
linked to the World Cup final. And that's just one example. I've been looking at. There was another one with the Busby Babes. That was linked to the Queen. I'm
It's
just
really
starting.
weird, isn't it? Well, by the way, Steve, you just said goodbye to Alice Gorgeous, but you said it in private chat, so she can't see it. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Sorry.
But you said bye. That's
Thanks,
fascinating.
mate.
Sorry, Paul.
Can I mention one thing on that number? Because that number crops up all the time in what you perceive as rituals. And the reason why it's all connected is exactly why, because everything is connected. Because this is what the occult proves. The human mind and the external world is all connected. Everything is one. We do everything we understand is put out into the world. So if we've got garbage going on in here because we're under mind control and under duress, well, that's reflected in the actions and the events that we see taking shape in the world. But the reason I'm mentioning 322 is because that is a very important alchemical number. Alchemy is about changing lead to gold. So lead, it's nothing to do with metals, it's to do with human consciousness. Lead is base consciousness, and it's reflected by, I might have this wrong, but it's either the number 79 in the periodic table, and if we move 4 stages, because alchemy is a 4-stage process, 4 stages on the periodic table takes us to gold. Lead to gold in 4 stages, 79, 80, 81, 82. And let's do a little bit of rudimentary mathematics, add them up. 3, 2, 2.
Wow.
Funny that, isn't it?
And it's funny, if you look at World War II, that is all 3, 6, 9s all the way through. War was declared on the 3rd of September 1939. Mr. H came to power in 1933. And if you look at it ended in 1945. 9. It's really weird.
Do you know the alchemy behind 369? Should I mention that?
Oh, yes, please. Yes.
Would that be?
Yeah.
Right. 3, 6, and 9. Number 6. We'll talk about that first because that relates to the material world, where we all live in the material function. 6. That's why God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. 6 is a number of ignorance. It's a number of material form. Let's look at number 3. Excuse me. Let's look at the number 777 first of all, because that is unity consciousness in perfection. The number of God, godliness, 777. That's why when you hit the jackpot on a roulette, sorry, not a roulette table, one-on bandit, it's lucky number 777 because it reflects perfection, perfected thoughts, perfected emotions, and perfected actions. 7 plus 7 plus 7 equals 21, and 2 plus 1 equals 3. So we've got 3 and 6. Now let's look at the antithesis to that, which is number 666, the number of the beast, which is base consciousness, imperfect thoughts, imperfect emotions, imperfect actions, ignorance in 3 domains. 666, 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18, 1 plus 8 equals 9. 3, 6, and 9. 3 and 9 are polar opposites on the function and dynamics of the universe, which relate to the non-aggression feminine principle and the self-defense masculine principle. And if both of those principles are in alignment and harmony, they meet 3 and 9 at the 6, which is planet Earth, which can be harmonious if we understand the principles involved. That's how it works. That's why 3, 6, and 9 relate to energy, frequency, and vibration, which is why Nikola Tesla used to bang on about it, which is why we see these patterns occurring in nature, because that's what nature is.
Now that's well explained.
All his numbers.
And Rocky Road to Love 17 said, is gematria the code of the simulation, and do they use numbers and dates to hack it for the outcomes they want?
Well, I keep saying about whether we're in a simulation, going back to that accident with that locomotive, in that of all the ones they could have picked, it was that one.
Strange,
and then if you delve in deeper on that one,
as you explain it, I've just got to dive out to the side at the moment, and I'll be right back in 2 seconds. All right, sorry. So please carry on.
Okay, if you delve in deeper onto that one, if they knew that the accident was going to take place, and that means the driver was in on it, who, interestingly, the driver was 47, by the way, which links to government, and knowing railway people, drivers and so on, if that driver knew that train was going to be in an accident, that makes that driver a murderer, because he knows that if he's going to pile his train into the back of another one, someone's going to get killed, which makes them a murderer. So it makes
To
you
add
wonder
some
whether
meat onto the,
it just makes you think, well, are we in a simulation? Because
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
you know, I mean, a
to,
car
to add
accident
some,
is something a lot
Sorry about that.
smaller than a train piling into the back of another one. If you run a train to the back of another one at 50 miles an hour, it's going to do serious damage and kill people.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Whether it
to
is a
add some meat on to that point, the I mean, I've kind of written about this as well, but to add some meat to what you're saying there, everybody is in on it because everything is connected. It's the universe as well operates on two principles which are known as determinism and randomness. So there is a random component where we can operate with free will, but there is deterministic qualities to it as well. But rather than bore people on this in detail, because it is a little bit complicated, if we come to the understanding, even if we don't believe it, if we come to the understanding that everything in the universe is connected as one wholeness, so every human mind is connected to every other human mind, and all the rocks and the trees and the vegetables are intricately linked because everything is combined. We only have to look at normal science to kind of see how this works. Look into particle wave duality, for example, in quantum mechanics. We'll see how well, actually, this is very spooky because it shows that what we think of reality is completely different when we go into causal factors and first principles. It's completely different to our sort of general understanding. So a lot of these events will conduct certain numbers and occur on certain dates. Does that mean that everybody's in on it? No, but there is elements of chaos sorcery added to it to fabricate some of these events to work in the way that they do.
Well, on a closing note, Jojo Gisman, that was excellently explained. Thanks, fellas. That was pretty well explained. Jojo Gizmo said 369, the ghost drank 9, the monkey chewed tobacco, and they all out on the streetcar line. Remember that tune? And the line broke, and the monkey got choked, and they all went to heaven in a very glass boat. Yes, interesting. And yes, just my singing is terrible, isn't it? I mean,
I
when I
felt
was
like
a
I was
kid,
there.
I was a kid. I used to sing. My mum said I sound like a foghorn. In fact, a foghorn sounds better than me. Sometimes I hit the right notes, but not exactly in the correct order. So there we go. So yes. So, well, Pavarotti used to phone me up. Ask advice. That's if you believe that bullshit, believe anything. Well, I think we're coming near the end of the show. And I'd like to thank you gentlemen for an absolutely excellent show, fantastic show. We're going to bump a lot of people in chat, and we hope to have a lot more people in chat tomorrow night because we're going live tomorrow night. Don't know who the guest is tomorrow. Oh, yes, it's probably Paul English will be the guest. We're on YouTube mainly tomorrow. That's if we're not banned. And of course, if there's any problems, always check the Telegram channel, and that's my. I use Facebook, yes, but there's a group. We've got a group in Facebook, and Rocky Road to Love, great show, lads. Thank you very much. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. It's much
Take the
appreciated.
thumbs up.
Yes, and please. Oh, thanks, mate. Take the thumbs up. Remember, please subscribe as well, and above all, tell others. Let's get a bigger audience in, shall we? For tomorrow night and for future shows, and where our audience is climbing quite a lot. So this is very nice. And have you got anything to say to the audience, Patrick? And,
Yeah. I look forward to Thursday's show. I might come on tomorrow if there's time.
Yeah, you're always welcome. It's an open house. That's the way it is, And remember, there's a phone line which you can phone. Sorry, not phone. There's the link to the studio tonight. So our listeners could have come in on into the studio. So I might do that tomorrow night as well. So you can want to come on, but as it be YouTube, don't say tit or bum or something because it might be banned.
By the way, if I do promote your radio show to other people, which I do try to, I always start off by saying, "Do you like fart jokes?"
Yes, and
Then
there'll
you
be the
tell
smutty gag.
their answer whether they want to come on or not.
Well, I've got some smutty gags tomorrow. So I've got a real smutty gag for tomorrow one. I'm wondering, I've told the constipated vicar gag, haven't I? I've said that one a bit too often. And so there might be another one. Anyway, before we go, thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Paul. Now, the other thing, Steve, where are your talk dates? Let's do a little bit of the old promotion, shall we? So when
I've got an event coming up in October. I think it's around about the 8th, which is a survival thing down in Wales, if anyone's up for that. Have a look for Caru Code. I'll put it in the chat. You'll be able to get it on Facebook or the internet.
That's right. And I can actually, if you put it on your Occult Academy on Telegram, plug, I'll put it on I'll paste it over and shove it on my one.
That'll be brilliant.
That's it. It sounds like something an embarrassing disease, doesn't it? I've had Kiru, it's through my army training. I got it in the arm.
I think there's still spaces on it if anyone's up for it. And I don't bang on about occult stuff if anyone's put off by that. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it, but I just usually concentrate on survival for that. Because fundamentally, if we don't study the occult and, beat the opponents who are enslaving us, we will need to know survival in the woods.
Can we do survival, though? Would it be possible to do a show with domestic survival? So rubbing two Boy Scouts together, make a fire in the woods or something like that.
Urban survival.
Urban survival. I mean,
yeah, that's what I call it.
I mean, there was a Canadian many years ago who used to come on doing urban survival, and I agree with what he said. He says, "Do not wear camouflage; you'll stick out like a sore thumb in an inversion environment."
Oh, yeah.
He said, "You've just got to blend in. You've just got to But you could do it. We could do a show on that one.
Hell yeah, I'd be up for that.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, Swiss Army knives and all that. Are they the best, or is there one? What about the British Army knife that people don't know about? Because there is a British Army knife, and I've got an original from World War II.
Oh, I know the ones you mean. I haven't got one. I'm jealous.
Really?
No.
Really?
They didn't trust me with knives.
Yes. I mean, and I actually think the Swiss ones, the ones that make the Swiss Army knives, they're bloody good. But what about there's the German Army knife, isn't there? Which the Chinese make a knockoff one. Apparently, it's pretty good.
Well, if we do a show, why don't I bring a few gadgets and I can do like a show and tell of things? That'd
be bloody good. That'd be really enjoyable. And things like the best things to put in your pantry if they're going to be food shortages.
I actually do talks on all of this, by the way. I'll put it out there to anybody. If anyone's interested in a talk with, I do PowerPoints and handouts and demonstrations and all of this kind of stuff. I actually do that. I mean, if it's of anyone's interest, I'm happy to.
So I didn't mean to jump in, but we could whet people's appetites with if you do a show. So you could tell them a little bit. And say, to find out more, come along.
Yeah.
Be a bit crafty, don't tell them not too much, sort of thing.
Don't give all the secrets.
That's right. That's right,
Yeah.
But
I need to ask a favour as well. Chris, could you send me the link to Steve's the Occult Academy? I've been trying to search for it on Telegram. I hate Telegram. Telegram is an absolute horrible thing to use. I can never. So, would you mind dropping that over to me, and I'll add myself on
sure.
there?
I'll make a note of it because I've got a memory like a bleeding.
I put it in the chat just
told
5 minutes ago. If it's any help, I don't know if you can get it from there. So it's about 3
I'll try.
messages up.
I'll try. Let me see if it works.
Hang on, I can't. Do you know something, Steve? I can't get the address of your Telegram channel off your Telegram channel for
Right.
some unknown reason. You can get it off of everybody else's, but I can't get it off of yours.
Yeah, well, all right. That's why I've not got tons of subscriptions, I guess. I don't know. But obviously, I just promote my channel. If anyone wants to join, I'd be delighted. It might not be the answers you're looking for, but it's I don't pull many punches, as you can probably tell. I'm not a big fan of the government, as you can probably tell.
That's right. And also, alongside is the Fockham Hall Telegram channel, which does have smut and tit and bum jokes, so and fart jokes. So if the vicar's coming into tea, tell him in the Fockham Hall channel. It's it's very posh. Oh, I knew that fart joke. Yes.
Eric, don't worry
Yes.
about it. I've actually thank you for the link, Steve. Yeah, that's worked.
There you go.
Right. And
Yeah, I've just added
Is
myself.
that you just come up? Hello, mate. Thanks.
and remember, tomorrow night we got the two nuns joke. The nuns joke, and it's not a religious joke, believe it. Well, it sort of is, but it's not rude. So there we go. Well, it is. It is. In fact, shall I crack it now? Do you want the two nuns jokes?
Sounds good.
All right, Patrick, two nun jokes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm here.
Right. Mother Superior and a nun die and go to heaven, you see. And St. Peter's there, and he says to the nun, I'm afraid before we can enter in, we've got to ask you a question. She said, oh, yes. And he said, it's a very easy question, so don't worry. You should get in, all right. She said, yes, okay. And so what sea is mentioned in the Bible? So she said, well, the Sea of Galilee, correct. She goes, you see. Mother Superior, she said, well, as your Mother Superior, we've got to ask you a slightly harder, more difficult question before you get into heaven. So she said, okay. She said, okay, the question is, what did Eve first say when she met Adam? And Mother Superior said, bullshit, that's a hard one. Correct. In you go. Sorry, it's a terrible one.
we know with symbolism, the Apple logo links back to the Adam and Eve, the biting of the apple. Yeah.
Well, like what Dave Allen said, he said, if I saw a snake that spoke to me, he said there'd be a trail of diarrhea running down the road.
The problem is with the latest CEO of Apple, he thinks it was Adam and Steve.
Oh, I like that one. Anyway, fellas, thank you for a great evening, and we see us back tomorrow night. Don't know what show we're going to have tomorrow. 8:00 on YouTube, and there's a Paul English show that comes up on Thursdays. And remember, later on in October, we've got Dr. Mayhill coming on the show, and the lady that was struck off for prescribing natural medicines. So there we go. Anyway, it just leaves me to say, whatever happens, stick your thumb up, subscribe, tell others if you enjoyed the show. If you didn't enjoy the show, don't tell others. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. And good night.
Good night, all.
Bye-bye.